Hey, folks! Welcome to our third week, third
I
full
think
week of
it's
streaming on
yeah.
the Ben Thorpe channel, the Ben Thorpe Show with co-host Grace Thorpe, and we've gotten ourselves a little more organized over the weekend. Got a lot of sleep. Believe it or not, it's very difficult doing this, and we want to first address a topic, a kind of embarrassing topic from last week, last Friday. Grace, can you get the analytics up on that?
Yeah,
I
sure. Give me
gave
one
Grace,
second.
we tried an innovation called Feminine Fridays last Friday. And it was an opportunity for Grace to take over the show, give me a little bit of a break, and even to have her mother on and her sister, all of whom did. But I don't think we had worked out exactly what what's it called? Her vibe was going to be. So it
Yeah.
ended up being kind of an extension of what I've been doing here in this kind of debate beef about whether you should wear makeup and stuff like that,
Mhm.
which was okay. But afterwards, and it was good for Grace to get out there. She was a brave girl to get out there. But I think we lost a lot of viewership, sort of killed our channel, as you can see. The graph, which was, I used to be bragging about how my graph was going like this, it took a nosedive. What else do we have for analytics?
Let's see. That's our views.
Watch time. No, that
We have
subs is that's not really.
subscribers
What about
and
watch
let's
time?
see.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
Just killed it.
It
Now we got
really
a lot of views on her stream, but I
Yes.
don't
Almost
think
300.
I think a lot of people felt like, oh, okay, he's handing it off to the kids, and this is just going to become a kiddie show and
Yeah.
self-conscious kids and stuff. But Grace has vowed to learn from her errors and
Yes.
really pivot for next Feminine Friday into much more, I don't know, a different kind of territory.
Yeah.
That's not an extension really of what I'm doing here, but you want to promote it a little bit, Grace?
Well, I got a little bit too into the whole I was trying to do, like you said, I was trying to do kind of a dude thing and
Hey, we're up to 7 viewers. All right,
yeah.
welcome aboard.
Welcome to the
I've
stream.
been trying to work the chats all weekend, and we've been trying to drop some of our beef, keep our beef videos going to keep people engaged. It seems like
Yeah.
it's paid off. All right, but go ahead. Sorry, cut you off.
Well, I was thinking of a little like easier topics because I kind of want Friday to be a break, because you do the
Yeah.
heavy stuff all
Yeah.
week. And I have this friend who lives in London and she's gonna come on. She's like, she's not conservative and all that stuff, but she would kind
Oh,
of
she's
be
not conservative.
no. But we've been friends since elementary school, and she would kind of be a fun co-host, and we're gonna go over
Yeah.
stuff like you know which movie character is more alpha, that kind of stuff. I think it'll
Yeah.
appeal to guys, but it will also be like a little bit more of just girls' perspective on
A little bit of
things.
meat and a little bit of fluff. The meat being kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
this continued controversy about what's appropriate for a traditional girl, and
yeah.
I think
I
to
still
some
want to do
extent
that.
we find ourselves in this kind of Puritan space where it's like we're sort of the I'm the pimp daddy and you're the hoe, and
Yeah,
like we're kind of making these ridiculous arguments that can be kind of extreme. Um, and we want to I think you want to open that up to not just like within the Catholic or traditional sphere, but like just in general, how to
yeah,
navigate for males and females, but primarily females, right? Kind of have a place to talk about how do you navigate this whole thing? Not so much
yeah,
to be a good Christian girl, but just to be a human being.
yeah,
And it'd be interesting to have folks from all kind of walks of life.
yeah, yeah.
And
Because yeah,
Edith, who's a wonderful girl, would be kind of more of your, extreme sort of modern person, but nice girl, and
yeah. I mean,
she's trying to do
she
something. I don't judge her for it.
yeah, she kind of she went whole hog into the whole like dating thing in
I
school,
Gracie, you've
and
got
I
to
just
pull up
avoided it.
my hero in the commentary, my
Oh
hero in the
yeah,
chat.
enslaved by
Enslaved by truth.
You're actually on the agenda today, enslaved by truth.
Yeah,
A chat
right.
you made on some kind
He's
of
a
a debate.
mysterious figure who's kind of, I think, used to be part of the Jim Bob world or is still in there, and he got slammed on the most recent Jim Bob channel that we kind of memed.
Oh yeah, you saw
I
that.
assume it's a he, but Just
Uh,
tell it as it is.
Hi, CathoBro. Daniel, I think we can say. Um,
That's absolutely not true.
you did. You were the most exciting part of
That
the
was
show
great.
before. Yeah, it was great. It was great little, discussion.
And we
Oh,
took that and we got our, well, I'll announce that. We've got a series of, like, not just beefs, but actual debates coming up, including the OrthoBro
yeah.
for this Saturday. And it's going to be fun. All right. So Grace is going to try to revamp her thing to make it less debatey, less dude and more girls. And she's going to have some fluff. It's going to be just like these silly kind of rating different things, kind of more like girly.
But with a little bit of
guys I think guys like to participate in that. You know what I mean?
But
it's not going to be like
yeah.
trying to come to some sort of moral conclusions and quoting like Vatican documents. Just going to be a bunch of girls going, I don't know about him. He's
but with a little bit, with a little bit of meat, because I'm kind of sick of, I do have a problem with this thing of the incel thing and all that stuff. Like, we'll get a little bit into that, into like how it's not okay to just blame women for the problems in society.
Yeah, we've been really
soaking
we've been soaking some stuff in over the weekend, because the weekend we want to try to hear what others have to say, so it's not just us babbling and then watching ourselves babble.
Yeah.
And we came across some interesting from an interesting guy. This is a little teaser for today's show. A guy named Speczo, who's kind of a CathoBro, I would call him. I hope he doesn't find that offensive, but it's very similar to the young, enthusiastic OrthoBro kind of world. And I invited him onto the stream today. He got into a beef with a guy that I really like named Jeremiah Bannister, who I think there was a kind of generational miss that happened there. And it seems like a shame, because two, obviously devout Catholics shouldn't be missing each other entirely. Although I like the idea of beefs, and it would be fun for them to have a debate. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see how it...
I got into beef with him too.
Enslaved by Truth. Let's promote Enslaved by Truth. I'm a cis male.
Follow me on YouTube and Instagram.
YouTube and Instagram, okay. We will. I think we do. I don't know. I don't really understand how any of this stuff works. But anyways, some great comments from EBT. And I hope you stay in there in the Jim Bob thing, because I don't think you've been banned yet. And what you say is more substantive, I think, than what I did in there. So I think I'll have a hard time getting rid of you. But we have noticed that Made by Jim Bob did not stream today. I think we've broken his format. And also, Andrew at the Crucible has not had a debate since Grace went on there. I think these guys are having a crisis. Call it a Thorpocalypse or blame it on, other things. But
I know
play. Haters hate.
They're going to say, no, I just did it because my books and stuff. You didn't do anything.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe. I'm kind of sick of trying to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, though, at a certain point. All right. So let's promote our upcoming debates.
Enslaved by Truth just wanted to say the stream with Jer and the Ropers was rough. I think he's talking about that Spexo stream. I think.
Jer Bear is Jeremiah Bannister.
Yeah.
But I think the bear there has nothing to do with Owen Wilson Bear people.
Owen Benjamin, you mean? Right?
Owen Benjamin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they missed each other. I think the Spexo guy comes across as very dismissive of older people, but I actually think he's very flexible. He's just he's an interesting guy. And just a little teaser for Friday. There was a part of a series that he did about Catholicism, and I think it was Judaism or race or something, hot topics, like very dicey topics, which they handled with great aplomb, like really, really got it right, I feel like. But he started off with a kind of dating advice that it doesn't matter if you marry a girl who's like kind of, what would the word be? Kind of on
modern.
board, red pill, right?
Yeah.
Because he had this theory that if you're a strong male, you can just mold her, and that women kind of respond to molding. And I don't know how good advice I think that is. I mean, it's interesting, but
I got into
there's the other problem of having a girl who's really into politics and everything you're into, and then it's not even really the other. There's nothing other about her. It's just kind of like she's one of the guys, and that's a problem we've encountered. In one of our beefs.
I actually, that was my comment to him. I think it was about how he's saying like, oh no, it was about traditional women. But anyways, maybe
and then we looked at a kind of middle ground, I think, attempt to. Well, they weren't conscious of these others, I don't think. But a guy named Timothy Gordon who went on with his wife and tried to give dating advice that was kind of a little more like, let's not be so like kind of LARPy.
Yeah.
With all this like kind of chivalry nonsense.
Right.
But let's also not, let's also be respectful. And I actually think that's bad advice too. So I think everyone's got it wrong.
Yep.
I don't know that we have anything right, but it is okay to say like, I don't see how this is going to work out. It's a tricky situation we're in. And I think that would make it interesting for your channel, Grace.
Yeah.
Especially with your mother and, I don't think anyone has any easy answers, but it'd be fun to just have discussions. And even, I don't know if you're going to have like girl debates where I don't know how you do that because girls aren't.
I think we just get into
debating
arguments
per se, but like, I don't know, like kind of like
me and
have
Edith
different people vote ones in the chat.
Yeah.
Just do it like a nasty long-term kind of grievance fest.
Whoever gets the most super chats wins.
Okay. So I think we got some. Steven's trying to make excuses for the Crucible. Yes. Crucible had to take a video down. Do you want to pop that up?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Steven, one of our great live chatters. The Crucible had to take a video down. Yeah, I mean, I think that was that one about the slaves and the creepy people from the, I don't know what you call that sphere. Hormaxer sphere? I think they took that down because they've taken actually a couple recently down. That wasn't his stream.
No,
it was on his channel, and then I think and then there was those two what I call kids, but apparently weren't kids who were just into the like grossest, like craziest profanity he had to take down. Yeah, I think he said he's been busy with this cozy TV, and Jim Bob said he's been busy with like shipping out books. But I mean, okay,
how hard is it to sign a couple books? Okay. The Orthobro says, did you watch the Pints with Aquinas debate recently with Peter Diamond?
I've heard of this, but it's without an A, right? It's Dimond. Have not seen it. That's one of the Orthodox Catholic debates, maybe. Dimond and Dyer, maybe. I've seen a lot of Jay Dwyer's stuff. I think it's interesting. I think that he's the kind of answer to the question, like, what is at the core of this Orthobro thing? And I kind of like him in a way, and I kind of don't get it in a way, but it has to do with presuppositionalism and all that stuff. I don't want to get into that right now. Upcoming debates. First off, this Saturday, me and Tyler Rowley, who I've been trying to contact all weekend and claims that he's been at Mass all weekend. Hey, look, there's a guy outside on the bike path. He's just got a sign that just says our Lord's name. He's just walking it on the bike path. Interesting. He'd be
really?
Yeah. Yeah. That's all it says.
It just says Jesus.
Jesus. Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Unless he's trying to find a game named Jesus and needs to give him a ride in the limo. It's kind of interesting. That's the world we live in. We're kind of doing that on the bike path known as the interweb.
Enslaved by I know you're
No. We'll get to it. Okay, we'll get
debate
to it.
hype. Okay, sorry.
Here.
Yes, okay.
Coming up Saturday, Tyler, who's hiding in the shadows. He's afraid of the internet or something. I don't know. And me, we'll do a team debate, the two of us in 2 blocks against Zen Shapiro and the Orthobro, 5 p.m. Saturday Eastern time on this channel, unless someone else wants to host it, but I can't get in touch with anyone else. So I guess we'll just blow this channel up. And nobody gets back to you or whatever, but I've got a commitment from everyone. I think it'll be a lot of fun, and it'll be nice to have a little community or whatever group of people that are watching it and kind of chiming in. We want to do a little bit of a more formal sort of debate where you have cross examination components. Hey, we're up to 13, Grace.
That's cool. Okay, back to 12.
13 simultaneous. That's great. That's better than you did in your entire stream. So that ego thing can really pay off. Turns out you have to have some content as well. And then I've got my debate with E. Michael Jones coming up on October 8th, the following Saturday,
Yep.
apparently on this channel as well. That should be a huge debate.
Yep.
My marketing guru Tyler is just flubbing it. But anyone out there who can like kind of spread the news, you're going to make a flyer about it. Again, it's really he's a really hard guy to get in touch with. But I've been just soaking in this topic: is the Gospel of John anti-Jewish? And he's taking the yes position on that. I'm taking the no. And the more I look into it, the more I think I'm solidly correct in taking the no position, and that he's just plain wrong in taking his position. But I mean, he really wants to talk about something else through that debate. But again, he did agree to the cross examination, so it's not going to be. I saw him, just happened to see him on, what was that thing called, Cozy TV? With a guy named Ryan Dawson, who's a real big kind of anti-Zionist. He was on the Crucible recently and just did it. I just think he was not interested in doing the debate and had a headache. But he had, I guess, previously interviewed Jones. And so I was there trying to make chats to get him to debate EMJ. And he was saying, well, I don't want to do that because but it was a previous stream, so it's not like he could have done it anyways. But his thing was like, the Catholic Church is just money making, blah blah blah, right? So anyways, so E. Michael Jones, a lot of times when he shows up on channels, he's there to promote his books and to kind of, he has a certain shtick that he does, like the Jews, blah, 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 blah. So I want to really kind of keep him on task and not have him go into that. Although if a related topic of, should you say like the Jews over and over again, or should you say the Jewish people, or should you say certain Jewish people that you have a problem with, it is an interesting thing. But I mean, that can get lost in a certain thing. What I'm concerned mostly with is the problem online of being, have you ever heard this term, Grace, called an edgelord?
Yeah.
So there's a certain way in which you can occupy the space that's most on the fringe, and people think of you as courageous by being there. But it's also ridiculous at a certain point to be an edgelord, because you have to, I mean, you're in a sense getting shock value, right? It's like, by being like more and more extreme. Yeah, like or Vosh. That female comedian what was her name? Amy Schumer. She's a kind of comedic edgelord. I think that's called blue comedy, where, it's just like how gross of references to the female anatomy and to your own like disgustingness can you make? It gets old really quickly. Yeah. But you could say it's shocking and edgy and like thought-provoking, but really it's not. Anyways,
are you worried about that with E. Michael Jones?
Well, I think that to some degree, he's not an edgelord in terms of the Catholic world. He's a Vatican II endorsing Catholic. Yeah. Because I dealt with some real Catholic edgelords on Twitter, and I don't know how the whole thing works, but it ended up being them saying, some sedevacantists saying like, you are going to hell, Ben, and you need to check out this video. And I was like, well, I don't have to check out your video. And I'm not afraid of going to hell because you're someone who's defying our Lord's command, like right here and now. So
yeah, right.
Like, how could you possibly have the inner when you defy the Lord, and the Pope? Like, yeah, right. You're not selling me, okay? And I almost want to say something like, well, if the person you think of as God has a heaven, I wouldn't want to be in it, but that, can confuse people. I'd rather be in hell than to be with that God. But I mean, it's just a bundle of contradictions. So anyways, I don't want to, but what the problem with when you're encountering someone who is an edgelord in some ways, and I believe within the mainstream Catholic world, E. Michael Jones is an edgelord. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the sense that I get Culture Wars magazine, and every cover is something that is really kind of embarrassing to have on your coffee table. It's sort of like Disney and the Jews.
Oh, yeah.
Or this and the Jews. It seems very extreme that way.
Yes.
And
it's certain optics.
If I kind of debate against him as the softer side, then I seem like a sellout, or, you know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, of course. It's real easy to be someone who is putting an edgelord in his place, and I agree. And I saw the debate with Vosh and him, and he just felt like, yeah, because this guy is deplatformed, I can just be so disrespectful, unbelievably disrespectful, and actually I virtue signal by doing that. It's just horrendous. I would never do that. But I mean, I do think edgelording is something that, you should be careful about. I'm pretty sure he's sincere, but there is a way in which some of those areas, some of those alliances are not good. I don't know. So I think the best thing, my best strategy is just stick to the topic and hammer
Yeah.
it, on this topic, that we're not talking about something else through this topic. We're actually just talking about the Gospel of John. And it's a really fascinating topic because this is what we're encountering in our culture. The increasing creeping towards a kind of way of saying Christianity is hateful. It's
Right,
hate
right,
speech.
right.
Being a Catholic, the lectionary,
Mm-hmm.
the Good Friday liturgy is hate speech.
Right.
And,
Right.
I don't think anyone really wants to go there, but I'm happy to go there because it's really interesting and kind of academic, informative. I didn't know a lot about this stuff. Okay, so this
Well,
Saturday, big
yeah,
debate. Next
that's-
Saturday, big debate. And I'd like to make, since I have Feminine Fridays off, kind of, although I was trying to blow the live chat. I ruined it. I think I drive everyone out of it.
Eventually,
was
it's
trying to
just
keep you
Benthorpe,
afloat,
Benthorpe. I appreciate it. You won't have to
Well,
do that next time. I'll do
I
that
haven't
now,
really learned the
promise.
etiquette of live chat, and I really,
Don't want to.
I don't really, I don't think there is any etiquette, but I obviously, to a certain extent, just drive people out of it. But what's my point? Yeah, so I'd like to keep doing Saturdays, and apparently I've been blocked on the Crucible. Modern Day Debate, an interesting kind of weird thing. Just before we got on,
you haven't been blocked on the Crucible.
Well, I mean, I'm blocked from communicating with the guy who runs it.
That's true.
Which was our meme. So I don't know. I mean, I guess he can communicate. It seems weird. I mean, you obviously don't have a normal relationship with someone if you've blocked them from any way of contacting you.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could say I could super chat my way on in the middle of streams, but I really feel like our relationship at this point, I'm owed a little more respect than that. And I frankly don't think it's worth the money. The last time we were on there live chatting, we sent two $20 super chats, which were never even read.
Right.
So I feel like, okay, well, I'm done being
it was fun while it lasted, but now it's okay, we're done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be this kind of briber type of guy. I feel like, well, you have a problem now with your image that you need to correct with me. But if you don't want to, let it stand.
Yeah.
But I mean,
you're not going to
that's
pay
my
him
beef with him.
It.
So it looks like we'll be doing. I mean, let's be honest. It's not that hard to have a debate platform. It's just hard. You got to create a group of people who come to it, hype it up, and all the rest. And I think that's not as hard as people have made it out to be. But the technology is there to do it on this platform, and whatever. So that's the hype coming up. We did find a music video that we're going to use to hype. There's a song called Dr. Jones by the Danish Euro pop group Aqua. So we're going to try to use that and not get banned off YouTube for using it.
The same people who did Barbie Girl
back in the 90s. Funny stuff. But anyways, the Dr. Jones thing, it's in some way a reference to Indiana Jones. But of course, he is Dr. E. Michael Jones, so Dr. Jones. All right. Do we have anything else? I'm open to taking some comments at this point, Grace.
Okay, yeah, a couple of comments.
Also, just one more on the debates. The Posh Redneck, a great Serbian guy, has agreed to debate me. We're going to do a short format debate, and maybe because he was worried about I got to do research, which was also Zen Shapiro's excuse, which was also Tyler's excuse. And my point is, we don't need to do that. But if we start with a kind of overview of the problem, East and West, unification, and the topic isn't going to just be Roman Catholic versus Eastern Orthodox. It's going to be, is it time to pursue unification aggressively? And I would be arguing for positive. He would be arguing for negative. So, but first, we're just going to lay it out. And so that's going to be a much less hostile beef type debate. But then I would like to focus in on something and then maybe have a second debate where we, you know what I mean, get into the nitty gritty of it. Because I think a lot of people just don't really even understand, and that goes for Orthodox people and especially Catholic people, don't even understand the framework for this controversy, you know. And he understands it and I understand it. And we have a different framework. And, you know, it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That should be a
Okay,
good one.
I've gotten through my kind of promotional Don King. Do you know who Don King is?
No, you keep saying
He was
Don
this,
King.
he was
I
this
don't
black
know.
guy who looked like he had just been in a bomb. His hair went straight back, and it was like frizzy, you know, but it ended in kind of like white hair. So he was this crazy promoter guy who promoted a lot of fights, but I think he was somewhat
Oh.
corrupt. But I mean, that whole world is totally corrupt. But Muhammad Ali, those kind of fights, Mike Tyson, and all
Oh.
that. But I want to be that kind of guy to some degree, because no one else is going to do it. I mean, what's the point of doing all this if you're not going to draw attention?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. Weren't we talking about this is like this thing, not to keep bashing the Crucible, but where they have debates and they just like they upload it like an hour before the debate starts. They don't pipe it
Yeah,
along. You never have any idea what's coming up. Like I don't know how
I mean,
people know.
I guess it works for them. Somehow it works for
I
them, and they
just
notify certain people. But to
yeah.
me, I really love the idea. You know, I was raised on mainstream media in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I think there's something good about that format. They've learned things, you know, keep it tighter. I'd like to even start doing commercial breaks where we promote like Feminine Fridays, you know what I mean? And, you know,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
units, even though I have no experience in broadcasting. I just think having it be just sort of so free form, I'd like to push back against, have it a little tighter, a little bit more audience oriented, and a little less, you know, sort of self indulgence. When I was on that Cozy TV, I was rummaging through and I found the Nick Fuentes channel, which I think is called America First. And I also found one from a guy who's linked with Nick Fuentes named Steve Franson, who we used to watch on YouTube. And I think both of them got banned. But there's a certain self indulgence in those long streams, which maybe it's a new art form, but I think like it tends to be kind of like very, very, I don't know, like this is what I did today. And then I did this and then I did this. And it's very,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know, almost laundry list kind of.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's narcissistic, and if people like it, fine. I just couldn't. I just like, well, where is the content here? You know. But
I
I
don't
mean, you
think
could say the same thing of me because of the beefs and the, you know, back and forth and all that stuff. But I'm doing that in order to package something for the audience, not because like I want to tell you about my day today. So, anyways,
yeah.
so anything from I see we're getting a lot of. I can't really read it because I have bad eyes and I have AD. They have the opposite of ADD. Do I? I can only do one thing at a time, which I think means I'm a normal human being. But maybe you could toss a comment or two my way, and we could address those
Yeah,
because it
sure.
seems like we're
So
getting some engagement, and I love that so much.
yeah, we're up to 17. Thank you everybody for
Hey,
watching.
that's great. Welcome
Yeah.
aboard. We're trying to rehabilitate the channel after Grace's disastrous performance on last Feminine Friday.
Okay, Enslaved by Truth
It's
says
an
I
inner
talk
beef.
we have a layers of beefs.
Jer Bear.
Um
Yeah, right.
so
Yeah.
wait, no,
I actually
that
got into a thing with Jeremiah about a year ago. You remember that, Grace?
yeah, we sent him a
Where I
video.
emailed him and we had been having our like kind of signs that were meant to do something. And for some reason I thought he was part of the plan. So I interacted with him, had a long phone call with him. And if an EBT wants to bring me up, he'll remember. And I sent him a video about one of these signs, which at some point we'll introduce to our channel. A great piece that you did, but you'd have to have some background for it. And he was very receptive, but I didn't know how to kind of like get in with his channel because what he does is kind of long form, it's very much Jeremiah, right? It's not really a talk show. It's not really I didn't really even know live chat existed then.
Yeah,
So I
right.
was watching it, but he would take something like a book on, I'm just trying to use a book. Like this is my book. He would take a book like Enthusiasm by Ronald Knox or some kind of older classic work and just kind of go through it. And, you know, and I didn't know how to kind of work in there. But now that I saw this just randomly, right? On Friday, we saw this. He's in
Yeah,
this
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
crazily lit thing. And I think there was a lot of fear, and he was encountering these kind of Groiper guys and two young guys. And I could, oh, no, he wasn't encountering them. He was reacting. And it just seemed like he was very, I don't know, trying to build a bridge, but at the same time saying, like, I don't want to get into it with you guys, because I think the Groipers have been known. I don't know if this is fair at all, but they have a reputation that if you piss them off, that you get doxxed and swatted, and your chat becomes full of Pepe the Frog, which, frankly, I just don't. Who cares? That's how I feel about it. Who cares? But I mean, I don't know. Who cares? Say what you got to say.
Enslaved said he shared the stream to Jeremiah's Telegram. I'm not sure if that means that he shared our stream, but if he did, thank you very much. That's really nice. I think he's
Telegram being a kind of Twitter. Is that right?
I think Telegram is sort of like like right-wing Twitter, I think.
So when you share a stream, you don't share the content of the stream, the video. You just share a link or something like that.
I think so. If that's
Well,
what that means, then
anyways, my opinion of that whole beef thing is like, it's mostly a generational thing. I think that Jeremiah didn't quite understand where the Groipers were coming from, like this incel thing, involuntary celibate. They're using it kind of tongue in cheek. And also this idea that he was saying you got to have a platform. That was his main thing in order to be a political movement. I think that's true, but I'm not sure that America First is a true political movement. I think it's a media movement that has a component of activism, but is not really a political movement in the sense of being a party with party platforms and candidates. I think they're more of like a Rush Limbaugh type of thing. And I'm sure they can have conferences and things like that. I think that Nick Fuentes himself is kind of debating whether to go in the direction of becoming a mainstream political candidate or remaining in commentary. A lot of people have said Tucker Carlson could run for president or should run for president. It's an interesting idea, but I think he said, well, that's not what I do at all. I'm an entertainer, commentator. I have no ambition to be in politics. I really don't think that having that tens of thousands of followers on the internet means that you're a viable candidate for political office.
Oh, Paleocrat is watching, actually.
Hey, Jeremiah, how are you? Nice to have you on board, and happy to have you come and stream. I'd love for us, because I'm a Gen Xer. Jeremiah's a Gen Xer. We're both seen by the younger folks as boomers, and I think that's funny. I think we should just embrace it. Grace and I have been watching all weekend the Spexo content and the Pine Sap content. A lot of it's really very impressive. It's just sort of inexplicable to me, but it has this bro thing that we've encountered in the ortho bros.
Yes.
And a kind of hostile, I don't know if it's a sincerely hostile. Anyways, I did contact Spexo, and he may be out there in the interweb too. So maybe we could have a healing kind of moment where everybody gets back together in good fun, because really, I don't know how much of it was just in good fun and how much of it was. But I remember typing into Spexo where he was playing video games and saying, like, I saw the stream, I saw that kind of controversy with Jeremiah, and he was like, yeah, he didn't seem to get it. And that's kind of one of those things, right? I mean, it's been since the 50s. The older generation doesn't get us. I think Jeremiah kind of gets it, but I think I think it's just a matter of like, what are we talking about? Because I think it's just kind of a miss in some ways.
Yeah.
How words are used and what's really meant ironically and what's sincere. But I think on both sides, there are sincere points to be made that get missed.
Both sides of what? What do you mean? The older people and the CathoBros?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jeremiah was trying to appeal to this kind of idea of an enthusiasm, which is a real thing. There's a book called Enthusiasm by a guy named Ronald Knox. It's considered one of the classic Catholic, and it's usually used in reference to charismatic movements. You know what I mean by charismatic, Grace?
Um, yeah, I mean,
Well, it's
yeah,
those churches you
emotional.
went to with your African friends where it's like
Yeah, yeah,
clapping and and it can become
yeah,
irrational and
yes,
dangerous.
yeah,
And I think he was saying, well, this America First movement, if it doesn't have any content, can become a kind of cult worship. And we've seen that in the Ortho Bro movement with the Jay Dyer thing, that it almost is kind of like there's just this rage if you disagree, which I just think makes no sense. But I think it's fine if you want to worship Jay Dwight. You think it's better without the blinds being like that? It looked a little
yeah, yeah.
crazy, like
It
from some
looked a
sort
little,
of
yeah,
striped maniac. But that there's a kind of worship of people. I think it's kind of the world we live in, that we're like celebrity people, and there's a celebrity culture, and there's these beefs online. I think all of it can be fine if done in charity, if done with a wink of the eye. But that at a certain point, people start taking it seriously, and I think people get really scared of the internet. And I really would like to ask anyone out there, like, what is so scary about the internet? I just don't understand it. And then you feel like, well, I have a sacred community I have to protect. They have to protect me from what? From what? I mean, really wants to frankly do something on Feminine Fridays that, is a little more, libertine, a little more,
uh,
a little less conservative Christian-y.
yeah.
Yeah, and with her, kind of friend who's a little more out there, and just ask
I'm,
kind of questions. And of
yeah,
course, there's going to be a lot of pearl clutching. Like a pimp daddy Ben Thorpe is now pimping out his daughter even more. Well, she's an adult, and what is the
yeah.
danger?
I'm
And
throwing off my.
her mother, after that crazy debate with the slaves and everything, had actually the creepiest of all guys, who everyone was kind of like, yuck. Her mother had gone into his
Hormaxer
site,
too.
Hormaxer too, and she finds him to be a fascinating person. If he was living next door, I'd be concerned. But I mean, he's slithering around somewhere in Las
Yeah,
Vegas, and
my.
what's the big deal? What's going to happen? What's the worst case scenario? What's he going to do? Stalk you on the internet? Who cares? All right,
My mom
so
is doing a deep dive on Hormaxer. She
yeah,
wakes up at 3
she
a.m.
goes on
and
his stream,
streams, you know, and
and
people
he
are
is a
like,
creepy dude.
yeah, and his
If I met
fans.
him like if we met at a party or something, I'd be like, we got to get away from this guy. Ghost him. Do not. Right. But sort of like the internet is like, well, what is there to be scared of? And I know I've heard of this thing, swatting. We've experienced something similar to that. And really, I'm not that afraid of it. I just think if you walk out the door, you could run into a lunatic who decides he wants to hunt you down and kill you. That's much more likely to happen in physical life, or you drive in a way where someone's like, I'm going to kill you. We're going to kill each other with road rage. The internet seems to be infinitely less dangerous, but people seem to experience it as much more dangerous. And I think I'd love to talk more about that, because I think it could be a lot of fun for our culture to have big, meaningful debates, and for citizens to talk to their leaders and have real engagement
Yeah, yeah.
without fear. I don't really know what the big deal is, but
Well, let's
that's
see
so
here.
great. We got Jeremiah.
I know.
I feel so honored. And EBT and Stephen Mulroney and the Ortho Bro has been here from the beginning, and I can see Robo Chief is also
Yes,
there.
yes. I've been saying hi to everybody in the chat. We have
I just think
a
as
few
Catholics
comments.
should not be afraid of other Catholics. I mean, if we're afraid of other Catholics, there's something very fearful.
Oh, and
for violence by another Catholic, then I think we're so off the rails that it's ridiculous.
If Jeremiah is still watching, or Mr. Bannister, I guess I should say, Paleocrat. I saw him in that Spexo thing, and his thing, where he was talking about, well, men and women are sort of in this together. I really appreciated that. He's kind of pushing back on this whole, women are just hoes, and, bros before hoes, and they're destroying this, the world, and let's put them in sacks and shut them up. It's just a little too much. And I think he was saying, well, we're in this together.
That's my point. You were kind of
50%.
saying what the beef was. I think the beef had to do with Jeremiah trying to say, I have some wisdom. We have some wisdom from experience, that some of the things you say that in your enthusiasm are kind of cartoon versions of Catholic teaching that really, like, when we try to integrate this into actual lived human life,
Yeah.
it just doesn't work that way. Then the pushback is going to be, well, you're worldly, right?
Right.
This
Right.
is modernism where you accommodate to the world. And so it's really interesting because I understand the Orthodox thing, because it's kind of part of their DNA to say nothing's changed ever. Of course, it's inconsistent because things have
Yeah.
changed,
Yeah.
right? But their thing is like, no, it's rigid, it's never changing. You are the ones who are accommodating to the world. But even within Catholicism, you have, I think, people who are young are going to say, I've lived in so much chaos in my life, and I finally found a rock. Now I need that rock to be a rock and not have,
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right.
sandy parts, and especially Pope Francis as the rock of Peter. People are like, well, this rock seems like it's, not even like stuck to
Yeah.
the core of the
Well,
earth. It's just sort
that's
of
because
floating in the sea. And I
yeah.
do have a lot of sympathy with that because, well, wait a second,
Well, Spexo,
um,
I got into
but let me just say,
yeah. Yeah.
I think that is what Catholicism is. It's a rock, but it's flexible. It's a rock
Yeah.
that, and that I do think Pharisaism is what Jesus hated. And, he did say, like, the Sabbath is made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And I think he would say Catholicism is made for man, not man for Catholicism.
Yeah. And
I mean, it depends what you mean by that, but it's got to work for us. I
well,
used to
it's
teach
I think
moral
it's
theology. Let me just say this one thing, Grace. I know.
okay.
I used to
Okay.
start the year by saying, look, the point of human life is to be happy. And Catholic moral theology is supposed to make you happy in this life and in the world to come. If anything I say you don't think genuinely will make you happy, which doesn't mean the emotion, but like the real life of fulfillment, then you should reject it, right? Plain and simple. And the church would say, if you in good conscience can't see that, and you've formed yourself and you've asked questions and you're not reducing happiness to maximum amounts of pleasure and blah, 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 then yes, you have an obligation to follow your conscience. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean everyone's a cafeteria Catholic? No, because I think it holds up. And I would have arguments with kids, but I would have them based on, conscience mostly, not just drilling them with papal documents and Bible stuff. You know what I mean? Because that's where our culture's at. I can't say, well, the Pope said this, therefore you should do it, even for Catholic kids. It's just not going to work. It's basic evangelization, even though these kids have been through, 11 years of formal Catholic education and, 16 years of informal catechesis at home. There's still a basic issues that they
Well,
haven't addressed.
that was the beef I got into with Spexo because he says to me, he goes, and I'm a cradle Catholic, right? Even though I know you're a convert, so it's not exactly like our family is Catholic, but
Yeah,
he's like
we
a
haven't been
recent
Catholic for generations. Yeah.
Yeah. And he says to me, well, Catholic morality is immutable and it doesn't change according to social norms. And I'm like, well, I get that because you're a convert, you want to kind of say, isn't that your point? Like, it's a rock, it's not going to change. But
Well,
that's
the answer to
just
that
not
would be
true.
well, the principles wouldn't change, of course, right?
Yes, but
Sex
he
is
said the
sacred. That's never going to
application.
change.
Right,
Human life
right.
is sacred. That's never going to change. But how we approach something like abortion, say, is going to change as, that changes. Or like the death penalty. This is a big controversy the
Yep, yep.
ortho bros have a problem with because recent popes have said that the death penalty should be sort of eliminated from human society.
Mm-hmm.
Not in principle, but in practice.
Yeah.
Okay. Because earlier tradition has said the death penalty is, and like in councils, the death penalty is a legitimate exercise of, the state's authority.
Yeah.
So they're
yeah.
like, well, it changed. And we would say, no, it didn't change in principle. It just changed in practice.
Mm-hmm.
And even someone like Pope Francis would make an exception if you were to come up with something where you're in a legal system where there's nothing else that can possibly be done to, like the jail is corrupt. There's no really way to hold people in there. It may be admissible for the greater good to exercise capital punishment. But I think he would say, well, then you have a real problem with your justice system But anyways, yeah. So kind of like, yes, the application changes. The core truths are the same. The problem with Jesus on the cross was not that that was an illegitimate exercise of authority, right? The Romans did have the right to exercise capital punishment.
Yeah.
Jesus wasn't an. I don't really know. I mean, I don't think that the point of the gospel and the passion of Christ was an argument against capital punishment, per se. Although obviously it does make you think twice. But
Well, but isn't
Jesus
the
never really made a. He said your power comes from God. He didn't say
isn't the
you don't have the power to do this, but he just said your power comes from God. So,
isn't the
I would
reason
think
that
twice about how
I
you
think
use it.
Pope Francis said the death penalty is inadmissible is
Yeah,
because
something like
death
inadmissible.
isn't
No.
sacred.
Not immoral. If he said it's immoral,
Yeah.
then you have a problem. And the ortho bros can say, well, that's flatly contradicts what came before it. But
Right.
what they'll
Right.
say is, well, this is your sneaky Catholic way of changing something without changing it per se.
This is your Catholic relativism.
And I would say, yes, that's right. We should be people who have a certain way of thinking that Muslims and Orthodox people and atheists find subtle and supple, right? Because the human mind is subtle and supple and human life requires a sophisticated integration of eternal truths with the realities of the day. To me,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
Can it sometimes get slippery? Can that be used to excuse things that shouldn't be excused? I think that can be a problem. But I'd rather be on that side of the problem where the burdens are light on people than on this thing where we're saying, like, well, we must enforce the rules as they were practiced in the Middle Ages and with no kind of accounting for modern things today. And that's a heavy, heavy burden that you put on people as a kind of minimum standard of being a Catholic. So I think
Yeah.
Catholics are religiously kind of slackers. That's right.
Catholics shouldn't be LARPers.
It's a note of Catholicism that we are slackers, that we're not moralists. We don't get that,
Well, we
I remember this image, if I can just give you an image before we get back.
Yeah.
There's this image, it's almost inconceivable to this day, of Italian men at a mass who, like, the wives and the kids are there. And the Italian men, like, even in the midst of the sermon, just go out back and they're like playing cards and smoking cigars. And then they go back into mass. I mean, I know that's not like the way it's supposed to be, but there's something about that that's like you're at home in the church. Maybe obviously too at home, but it's better to be too at home in the church than not at home at all in the church. I think that's the note of Catholicism, that we're kind of slackers in the sexual realm. We're slackers in the ecclesial realm, like in the realm of morality. Bettario la like to object. Italian men, how dare you, Mr. Thor? Well, and I was saying, to Grace also, that scumbags like Bettario, I mean, there's no worse place in Europe to go than to Italy to have to find like leering men. But they're not like American creep men and this Vegas guy. They're just a more relaxed view, I think, of sexuality in France, Italy, Spain, Greece, the traditional kind of Catholic countries.
Yeah. And it seems
I think we
better.
have something to learn from that.
Yeah.
And does that mean there's more immorality in those countries? Well,
I mean, Puritanism.
I don't know. It depends how you define that. But I think there's a certain wing of American Catholics who want to make the church primarily a place that preaches sexual purity, right? And that becomes kind of the gospel message de facto, not the salvific and the mercy of God. We live near the Divine Mercy Shrine. I think those are two messages that you got to kind of choose which one you're going to be. I think it's mercy. I don't think we're here to do what was possible to do in other generations. We can't do that. but you're gonna have to choose one or the other. You can't. I mean,
Well,
it's
also,
tough.
also the Puritan Protestant thing.
Thank you, Batario, for your what would we call it? Contribution.
But the Puritan thing makes people go crazy, right? Like that also,
It's
that's
just
not
very, very
exactly
difficult.
helpful.
It's just very, very difficult. How do you get a culture which has become hypersexualized on both sides to just
Mhm.
relax? You say you have the same problem with guns in America. You've got a hyper gun culture. How do we just get it to relax? Because if you say, well, we need to get rid of the guns, that creates a hyper backlash. You know what I mean? It's like taking. I've talked to you before, Grace. I think it's unreasonable. You're almost 20 years old. You cannot legally drink a beer. You can't
Yeah.
go to a bar and have a drink with your friends. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But if we tomorrow, as Catholics or whatever, we as Catholics in the midterm say, like, well, we'll give you our vote if we take the drinking age down to 16 or basically get rid of it, which in a lot of Catholic countries, there is no real drinking age, but,
Mhm.
there's just common
Yeah.
sense. You're not going to have a
Yeah.
9-year-old belly up to a bar.
Right.
I think that's more appropriate. But how do you get to where that is calm, especially when you have driving also?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It
I
would
think
be a
most college
disaster, but
campuses, I think most college campuses, their evening meal should include beer and wine, or, you know what I mean? They're
yeah,
not driving.
it's totally ridiculous. It's just
But how do you keep the
and it
kid from
encourages.
drinking 10 beers in the. They used to do it.
Well, it also when it's so prohibited to such an I think it encourages just binge drinking. People like teenagers get into this thing.
Yeah.
They just don't know how to handle it, so it becomes this crazy thing.
Yeah.
Um,
But you can cycle into a kind of ultra puritanical culture, and I think that's actually what these bro movements are rebelling against, because you're saying, well, there's no room here. There's just everyone's so angry at me for existing because I'm white, because I'm male,
right,
because
right,
I'm
yes.
heterosexual, because I'm believe in God, but
Mhm.
in a sense they are also doing that.
Right,
So it's
right,
it's
right.
like it's more complex, and I think that's Jeremiah's point, and I also got in touch with another guy named Jeff Ross or something like that, who was interviewed by the Pine Sap guy, or interviewed him. And I think we have something to offer to these younger generations that, like, guys, ease up a little bit on it and understand that to some extent what you're embracing is a kind of puritanical Protestant, I would say Muslim kind of view of sexuality, that kind of becomes, I don't know, like a kind of you're arguing for a social order in which maturity, you don't have to be mature and learn a life of virtue, because the society prevents you from ever being in a situation that that's tempting. I get the appeal of that. I just don't think it makes too much sense. Hey, Robot Chief goes, "What you on about, Ben?" I'm a rambler. I'm a gambler. Now, I have to take a smoke break. We're up to 17. I knew today was going to be a big hit. Always Mondays are a big hit. Everyone on the weekend is just churning it and getting some healing and then coming back in ready to have a great day. And I think we're having such a great thing. I have managed to pull this live stream out from the abyss, the ditch you drove it into on Friday. And in
Hey,
celebration of
you
that,
know
I'm
what?
going to give it to you again to not drive into a ditch and have my smoko.
Wait, just so you know, Paleocrat said he'd jump on when he gets home.
Oh, yes. I would love that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel so honored.
So I don't know that he might
Wow.
be on when you come back. So
That's exciting.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to have my smoke break. I think
Okay.
he's a vape guy. So
Yes. Yeah.
I'm old school. Just ripping the lungs to shreds.
Just turning
Be
them
back in
into
a few,
tar.
Grace. Now, don't drive. I don't want to see. We don't have a micro way to do this, but what happens is that people are interested in you, and then you just fail them.
Yes.
So let's see if we can improve that.
I
Okay.
have. Yeah. Okay.
Tell them about some of your ideas for your stream.
Okay. I'll work on it. All right. My time to shine. Um, you know how my dad was talking about that Spexo guy? I actually got into a little bit of a comment beef with him. Not really, but I thought it would be funny to go over because we ended up like we had like I think like we went back and forth like 5 times, and it was kind of interesting what he had to say. I think, yeah, I wanted to make this point. What you said. Hang on a second. I'll show you. I'll show you. Hold on. Let me see. Share screen. I'm going to share this. Okay. Yeah. So I'll zoom in. So I don't want to go through my whole comment because I, it was a long comment because I had a lot to say, and I think I may have thrown him off, but he did have a, he did respond. So what I was talking about was Spexo said this thing at, I don't have to play it, but at an hour and 24 minutes, he said that he's not talking bad about Catholic women who raise children and go to mass all the time. Um, and what he was saying was, I have a problem with feminists and stuff like that. I have a problem with these like really crazy women, but I don't mind traditional women because I think they're doing the right thing. And I went into my whole thing. It's my shtick at this point. I think is to say like there's also a problem with traditional women, and I went through like how women have to be taught to love, to cook, to clean, to be understanding, to not get overwhelmed, to hang in, to not complain, to be supportive even in tough times. We cannot do it on our own. And most women, even traditional women, are growing up without strong mothers or grandmothers. And I really think that's true. Like I guess this is my thing in this community is that uh you know, I think women who try to do things traditionally it doesn't make any sense. If you don't have a tradition, you can't like just take a tradition up and just say you're going to go with it. You can't pretend. I think I said in here um you can't just act like you're in the 1700s when you live in America in 2022 and hope it works out. It's a big mistake. You know, I it you know what the definition of tradition is? The definition is um like basically like modes of living passed down through generations. So there is a tradition. It's a modern tradition, but like you know what I'm saying? Like you're actually being revolutionary if you pick a tradition and go with it. You know what I mean? Like I think you have to work with I think you have to work with the society you're born in. I don't think you can isolate yourself. I don't think that's going to work. And so my point to him was, here's my point, right? My point is, if we're all traditional people, right? Okay. And there's feminists and there's sluts out there and whatever, there's crazy girls, right? And you want to offer them something better. You have to offer them something that they can actually do. You can't just say, you can't just give them this model of living where like they are like stay-at-home mothers who all of a sudden know how to cook and clean and do all that stuff and have a bunch of kids and somehow it's going to work out. We have to, as Catholics, as even just religious people, as conservatives, you have to offer women something a little bit better than that. And I think there's a lot of women out there who are trying to do something that cannot be done, and I'm trying to save them from it because you can't I'm telling you, as a woman, you can't just decide that you're going to teach yourself how to love and how to be a good mother. You know what I mean? I think I'm a little sick, so excuse me. I think women try to do the right thing, but I really I just have a problem with it. I just think it's like dead on arrival. It's not going to work. And that seems to be like what I say in every one of these streams. Um So, I'm sorry, but I guess that's just my point is like, tell me how it works. Tell me how it works for women to just pretend that they get it all of a sudden and that they're going to do this thing that they have no backup. They haven't been doing, their mother didn't teach them to do, and they don't have any outside support except their husband. I don't think a man can teach a woman how to be a good housewife. I don't think so. But now I'm getting accusations of being a pick me. How am I a pick me? I'm saying to traditional women, we got to work together here. I consider myself a traditional woman. I'm not like modern. I just think that a lot of people are trying to do something that can't really be done. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's just my bad experience. Okay, I'm getting a lot of chats. Okay, hold on a second. Robo Chief says I am a feminist and I think it's elegant. I totally agree. I think it's very elegant. I really love the idea of men being strong, warm, courageous providers and women being elegant, feminine, happy, prayerful mothers and wives. I really do like that idea. I just think when you live in a society where basically everybody has watched porn and basically everybody has been imbued with feminism to some degree or another, even if they're like a good girl, I just think you have to work with that a little bit more because that's going to be there. And you can't just pretend it's not there. I don't know. I'm not really making my point as effectively as I want to, but Tario, hello. I don't think I've ever talked to you, but I know you're my dad's friend, so I he's always complaining to me. Well, no, he doesn't complain. He complains about other people who don't call him because he's annoying, but you actually do call him. So. No complaining. I don't know why I said that. He said, I think most women like men do fine in life. It's not that hard to love or cook. Okay, maybe I'm not making my point clear enough. Okay, first of all, women do not know how to love. I think that's a Jessica Lee Peterson thing. I'm not sure. But you're telling me if I got married to somebody, let's just say I really loved them, but I all of a sudden I'm staying at home and I'm cooking and cleaning all the time. I'm not gonna get overwhelmed. You don't think there's a problem with women who get overwhelmed because they get angry and then they get hostile and then they stay in that and they never learn to take it back? You don't think that's a problem? And women don't nobody's correcting them. And I don't think their husband can just correct them because then it's just them against their husband. It is kind of hard to love. I think women get overwhelmed and they get angry and they get resentful and they stay in that unless they have older women to kind of knock them out of it. Like, hey, come on, you can't just be cold to your husband. But if you don't have those support systems, I don't think your husband can just knock it out of you himself because Dad's back.
Grace.
I'm getting into it with the chat. They're all saying that I'm wrong about this traditional woman thing. They're saying
you drove us down to 12 viewers. Who cares?
Well,
Who cares whether you're getting into it? I want viewers. I want clout.
I know.
No, it's good for you. They disagree with you?
Yeah, Batario disagrees. He says
Batario is such a pearl clutching Italian, you know? You're supposed to play your character if you're going to.
He said, what does he say? I think most women like men do fine in life. It's not that hard to love or cook. I cook.
I disagree with.
Well, I disagree with that.
Really hard.
Yeah.
Really hard.
Oh my gosh, Paleocrat is on. Let's add him on.
All hail.
It's
Hi.
true. On you two. Yeah.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
We've reached such a high level so quickly.
Yeah, we've talked before though.
Yes.
You know? Yeah. So you were at a high level before you even started this. You were a classic in the making, man.
Yeah. I felt like I had something and I felt like reaching out with you and to you, and we talked on the phone.
Yeah.
And then I was watching your streams for a while and then you weren't doing them anymore. Is that right?
I was doing them over at Holy Faith Media. And so I was doing streams for like 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then I stopped doing that. And even if it wasn't for the reasons that I had, it would have been forced on me anyway, because my mother-in-law was in an accident. My brother-in-law died. Oh, and so she has severe brain damage from it. She's in a home. It's too dramatic that we wouldn't be able to take care of her in our home. And so there was a time where there was just no way that I could have. And then after a while, I decided to come back, but I wasn't doing current events anymore. Yeah. So I said, I don't want to do that. I don't, because it's so tough. I mean, you get in the crazy rabble of things, and your emotions are through the roof, and it's just sensationalism and all that. Yeah.
I wanted to talk with you about that because I thought your take was interesting, because if I'm not mistaken, you kind of didn't want to get super engaged with the latest Vatican, whatever, that world of the kind of the Catholic news cycle thing. You were doing more like, let's study the classics.
Yeah.
Let's do it kind of a deeper dive so that we can bring some substance to this. Am I right in saying that was kind of your strategy?
Yeah, it's actually a new thing in the Catholic universe to be wrapped up with current events.
Yeah.
And this idea of novelty, right? It's like sovereignty. Like you go and you're talking, it's like you're all the way back in the book of Acts where they go and they talk about the newest thing. Like, what's the new idea? And that's all it is every day.
Itching ears, right? Isn't there a phrase like
itching ears? And it's I called it a flash in the pan. So I said, you do a live show about current events. And when people know for that day, it's important.
Yeah.
But then a week later, who's going to go back and watch what happened last Tuesday?
Right.
Who cares about that?
Right.
So even your catalog of your work is here today, gone tomorrow. You're like in the ever present now. Yeah. And things get lost in that. And when you do that, you're oftentimes, because you're wanting to talk about right now, it's easy to fall prey to just finding stuff. You're just kind of an ambulance chaser, sniffing around for the biggest scandal. Yeah, and that's all it. But that's all it is. And it's like there is a role for that. But if you aren't grounded and you don't have any roots in theory of anything, you're talking politics all day long, but you don't have the social theory.
Right.
You're talking like how we should approach the mass media, but you don't have any kind of media concept of a media theory at all. Like, what is this thing? What are we doing?
I know you were doing something with those guys with the Marshall McLuhan thing.
Oh yeah.
And I think they had no idea what you were talking about. And I'm not saying that to put them down, but I'm just saying I don't think they understood what you were saying. Hey, buddy.
Yeah. It's his birthday today. It's Ambrose's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, here you go. Here. Yep. And
one's in the chat for happy birthday.
There you go.
Jeremiah's son, little Mr. Bannister.
Yeah, man.
I don't really get
14 years old.
14
years old. So he's pumped up today.
Yeah.
So but I think that you're right, man. Like the stuff about McLuhan. Yeah. I mentioned, in my video, I said, do you guys, for a generation of people and there is a difference. Like I remember what it was like to actually have privacy and to say, like, I woke up in the morning and ate food or read the Bible or did whatever I wanted and go to work and hang out with my friends. And unless you saw me physically, or unless you saw a VHS or something of me somewhere, or whatever, you did not know what in the world I was doing.
Right. And you're not thinking about telling about everyone about that later. Like I had a bagel and I had an interesting interaction, and it's media,
nobody knows.
It's going to be part of my media. But I love it.
Yeah,
I love
there's
that
no
it's
data. There's no data somewhere that has me all over it. Right. I'm not being. I wasn't being shared to marketers so that they can figure out how best to pitch goods and services at me. Right. When I go out in public. I mean, imagine how weird that would be back in the day, like going down to the public square and people physically coming up, hey, but this and this and this. And you're like, whoa, how do you even know I'm interested? Well, I bought the information about you from this group that's following you everywhere. Right. And so I lived in that. These young guys don't. They were born in the panopticon, right?
But so in a certain way, I was using this as an example. I'm probably a little older than you.
Yeah.
Although we must.
How old are you, man?
I was born in 71.
Okay, yeah, you're a little bit. I'm 78.
Okay, so I mean, when I was younger, everyone pretty much had their name, their full name, their phone number, and their address in the white pages that everyone got. It was there were certain people that opted out. I think celebrities and stuff didn't want to do that, but pretty much everyone, you knew where they lived. Yeah. So I think everyone was in a sense doxxed. So I don't really understand. Yeah. What's the problem with being doxxed? You want to know where I live? What are you going to do? Come over? Okay.
Yeah. And people, you can do that now. You can go on. There's all different websites you can do. I mean, so
if you were to really try to protect yourself from your address being out there, it'd be like a full-time job. So why not just embrace it and say anyone who wants to attack me is welcome to come over. Just ring the doorbell and we can have it out and we'll do it on video.
Yeah, but these guys, these young guys, man, like they don't know any other universe. My kids are that way, you know. And when I hear people say, well, you can't relate or you don't understand us, that's a guy who they don't understand. I've got kids that are maybe 5 years younger than them.
Yeah.
and I engage with them regularly. I speak with them. I listen to them. I try to
With your
understand
kids?
with my kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I say, look,
Hopefully.
man, like well, you sound like my son that
Yeah.
I've never had, because my son doesn't even talk that way.
Mm.
You know, he doesn't
Yeah.
go, oh, you're just old. You don't understand anything we're talking about. Only kids who like, it's a weird thing. So they're not even conceptualizing the idea that parents who are actively engaged with their kids, even on comedy, even on humor, you
Yeah.
know, things that they find funny, weird memes and that kind of culture with that.
Yeah.
Now, some of it, in fairness, some of it I don't get, but that's
Yeah.
because I don't know the context. Like, it's not that
Yeah.
it's not that it's beyond me. It's that I didn't watch Pokemon.
Right.
So
Right.
if there's
Ren
a
and
Pokemon,
Stimpy, I don't get it.
I watched Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah.
So
So
I would
you're
understand, and people can joke and say, "Oh, it's not the same thing," and I'm like, I know it's not. That's not the point.
SpongeBob.
The
Did
point
watch
is, you
that?
have. I watched SpongeBob.
I could
So I
never get it.
so I watched, you know, and when I was young, you know, watched funny shows back then. You know, I mean, early Saturday Night Live stuff. And so
Yeah.
you say you follow comedy over the years, you see the development of the craft of that. It's not like
Yeah.
it's some magical out of the blue, out of nowhere thing. That's why even the people that are funny in that universe over there, other comedians know about them. Even if they're not in the same world, they understand. So if you understand comedy, that argument of, well, you don't understand our humor is just kind of lame. Like, it's like, well, I mean, if you're talking about something in particular that's maybe a show I've never seen, I wouldn't get the context of that joke. But if you told me why that was funny, then I would understand the reason that that's funny. Like, that's not
It
even.
can be.
Yeah.
What are you saying? It can be kind of an insular world where the insiders are signaling to the other insiders in a way
Yeah.
that is kind of really, I don't know, self-protective. There was some comment that someone made on one of my things. They were like, the horse sometimes bays up higher than a tall man. And I was like, and then someone else commented, and I was like, I just don't think I understand this joke, but
No.
whatever. But I actually think I'd love to like hash out with you somewhat. Is I actually love the internet. And I don't know if it's a different theory, but what I think is strange about the internet is, yes, there are things lost. Like there is that, like if you and I were in a room together, there'd be a certain warmth and a certain calming effect, and less likely to get contentious, right? That kind of thing. So we would say
Dramatically,
something has been lost.
Yeah.
The flame wars. Although video helps, I think, a little bit with that, because you can see body signals and facial stuff. But what I love about the internet is, why is like, I can say in a certain way that liberates you. You know what I mean? I can say something to you that maybe it frees me from a certain fear that you might come over and just like actually literally punch me in the face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't care. So I actually cultivate online beefs with people that then become meme wars. And I think it's a lot of fun. And I think that people like it. It sort of draws their attention.
Oh,
So,
yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about the fact that mischief makers tend to be infamous, and being famous is part of that, right?
Yeah.
So infamy is a thing. I think in the day and age of this, you mentioned earlier that we live in a day and age of celebrity, right?
Yeah.
And it's true. And yet people wonder why there's a lack of seriousness. You know, and I say, because we literally are living in a day and age where the TV has dominated and won. This right here, what people are watching right now, they may not understand this. They're watching TV. They may think they're not. This is television. That's why legacy television is just losing. That's all that's happening. But you're still watching. You're sitting down. It's a visual medium. You've got your talking heads, blah, blah, blah. You know, there's all sorts of stuff. My son loves watching dinosaur videos every day, right? So my little guy, and every day he's watching it, and people can say, well, that's really junky. Why doesn't he turn on the TV and watch, why doesn't he watch it on, some kind of channel or whatever? And I'm like, for one, there's not the choices that he has.
You mean he's watching it on the internet?
He's watching it on the internet.
Okay,
he goes to YouTube, and so he'll watch. So he would prefer to watch a video where you've got toys and sound effects, but you can see a guy's fingers in it, right? As he's moving the toys. Then he would like to see a very highly done thing on television of a cartoon of dinosaurs. Like, it's in part because of commercials and other things. But no matter what, TV's won. And that's a big difference in the way that people talk and the way that we think. The typographical mind is different. Just like oral cultures are different. This is more of an oral culture
Yeah.
what we're doing.
Well, it's an image culture, but I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, people just want to see heads talking.
But not for the
right?
word, not for the printed word. So like,
Right.
it's an
right.
oral culture in the sense that
Yeah.
you're gonna see the people in real life if you're there and you're talking to people and you're hearing them. It's the only way
Yeah.
main way you're gonna do it.
But it's still a word-based culture. You and I are talking using words, and
words
as Catholics, like that works, right? The Middle Ages people weren't very literate, but the iconography, the stream. So I kind of think we should, as Catholics, really embrace it and not be like bookophiles. I know there's something irreplaceable about the written word. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But I think like your kind of beef, I'll call it, with the AF people was you guys never write anything down, right? You're just this free flowing kind of like personality cult, which I think is a legitimate criticism. I actually don't think they're a political movement.
That's what I
think they're a
media.
They're a media movement that has an activist thing, but that's also a media thing. They want to capture them at the Charlie Kirk thing, asking an uncomfortable question and him going like, I can't answer that, which I think is fine.
It's marketable.
But, I think it's a
marketable thing. Yeah. The demographic is marketable. It's not, it's focused enough on a certain group that you don't even need to speculate on what you could sell. Yeah. I mean, if you're, you'd be able to pitch it easy, say white heterosexual Christian males. So like that is literally the demo of the Zoomers who are, and in fact, ones that are pretty upset about stuff, like not just in general, but kind of an upset crowd.
Well, and they're mischief makers, right?
And mischief makers,
what's wrong with that? They're saying like there should be some mischief made of this movement that is so hypocritical. So they're going to poke some holes in it, and then of course that larger movement is going to adapt to it and say like, well, we're going to weed the groypers out of the line. Now, here's where I have a problem. When they come back from that and they cry and they say like, well, they're weeding out the groypers. Well, but that's part of the game. Now you've got to adapt, right?
They're want to keep poking it too.
Yeah, they're going to cut the feed. They're going to not let you grandstand. They're going to get to know which the names are. Okay, but that's part of the game. So I have a problem with media people kind of crying when they're playing a game mischievously, and then they get banned or whatever. I think that's just another way to play the game.
Yeah,
but I've never experienced it. But I just think like, what's the big danger? So you get banned, so then you can use that to advertise yourself. I call myself Hollywood Ben Thorpe because I actually just want to chase clout. So they all say like, you're a clout chaser. I'm like, absolutely right. I'll go on any show at any time.
Yeah.
But I have a message.
You wear it on your sleeve though. And you wear it on your sleeve. You're not hiding that.
No, I think it's funny. I'm saying like, I want to be a celebrity. I want to blow up. Yeah. Because I'm saying, who wouldn't? Why wouldn't you want to blow up?
I'd rather not.
Why?
Because I think that when you blow up like that, even just from being in an industry for so long, the idea of like, this is all uncharted territory if we think that we're going to start something novel by being super big, but not end up being like the other people in this model that are big. And that is, take for example, there was a dude, I've mentioned this before, his name is Morgs. So Morgs had a really annoying shtick. Like it was obnoxious. He was one of those guys that would act like it's not scripted, but everybody paying attention could tell it's scripted, and his mom is there and I'm going to surprise my mom. And you're like, like it was
fake
terrible
drama.
Yeah. Fake drama. Yeah. Everything's fake. And his voice was always like this. And it was like through the roof, and his facial expressions were real bizarre.
I don't know the guy, but
he did that, but he's been doing that since he was like, 14 years old.
Yeah.
He dropped out of school at 16, been a multimillionaire since he was like 15 years old. So he went big.
Yeah.
Years go by, and he ends up experiencing the exact thing that I talk about all the time with people who go big. And I said, they lose themselves because in this world, they are a persona. I said, you cannot sit in front of a camera and look at yourself in a camera and have that exchange and that interplay that's happening with you and what you see and what you hear in your ears and stuff, and not have a kind of the way that you're approaching the camera and the eye as it sees you in a certain way. That can either become you, right? Or it'll be something separate. For people who get big, it is very difficult to keep it separate. And if they do, they experience enormous amounts of sadness because, as Morgs did, he started to realize people didn't even know him.
Yeah.
And he's like, I love music. I love art. I love this. And he's like, nobody knows. And I don't even know if you guys would even like me.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I felt like I had to be this guy. I have to sit in front of this camera. I got to do this thing because that is supposedly me, but it's not me.
Yeah.
And yet, and I said, so that I don't want that. And I
Yeah.
said, that is for as far as I can tell, it's an inevitable thing when you're dealing with visual mediums, because unlike writing, writing, you
Mhm.
can be in your
Yeah.
house, you're a recluse, right? If you're
Mm.
on a camera, anybody who sees you, the expectation, last story, I went down to St. Louis and there was this dude there, and apparently he's a mad trad, doesn't really care for some of my stuff. I had no idea, but he recognized who I was. I was visiting a friend. And he's like, oh, amazing. Paleocrat, dude, what's going on? I had my son in my arms, and it was before church and kind of chill. And he goes, yeah, you're not so, he used a certain word. It was like almost like confident, like bold and stuff. And I was like, I said, yeah. I said, well, this is how I am. And he's like, yeah, well, I expected you to be different. And I said, there's no camera. Now I know what I meant. And he goes, oh, he said, well, he's like, the way I am, what you see is what you get. And I'm like, then you're not in front of a camera.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't mean to be a jerk, but dude, you're faking that. Like, you have a luxury of saying that, but there is a luxury because you can say what you see is what you get. That's me.
Yeah.
I can't.
Well,
yeah.
are you saying we always have a persona publicly? That's not exactly who we are.
Yeah.
Interiorly.
Well, in any situation, the
But that would
difference
be true
is,
whether it's a camera or not. Like if I go to the grocery store, I have a public persona. I'm not going to tell the grocer, the cashier of my inner difficulties, right?
But the only difference is people aren't paying attention. So like a person walking by you in the store doesn't care. So unless you're wearing, sweatpants and socks with sandals or something, they'll be like, they'll take pictures you can put on the Walmart people page or whatever. But
you and I are people who feel like in some way, whether we're right or wrong, we have something that we'd like to offer into the public sphere. So, but my question would be, why wouldn't we want to offer it to as many people as found it interesting? Why would I want to not do that?
Yeah. Well, it is. Well, you want to.
It's fun.
And that's why, well, it's true. It's fun.
It's exhausting.
For me, I have fun doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I also know, like, I prayed, I did novena. I said, God, I just want to know what I'm supposed to do, because I don't want to be the guy losing my mind because of controversies all the time. And I think it's actually causing more problems. It's fun to be having, laugh at silly liberals and stuff. Yeah. But our world's literally burning down. And we have this magical thought that says, oh, God's in control. Totally true. But there's secondary causes, right? Like you play a role in this world. Yeah. But it's like a fatalistic idea that it's all going to come down and then we're going to emerge like a phoenix. Like, okay, and I say, we have to do something. And I remember I broke down in an episode. I snapped on camera in real time.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I snapped and I'm just like weeping. I'm yelling and I'm saying, like, our leaders have betrayed us. Our church leaders have betrayed us. And I was flipping out and I said, we have to do something. We have to do something. I was going on. Yeah. I've saved that video and shared it since a couple times to say this changed it all, because from that point forward, I said, I want God to use me in a way to say, what is the thing we're supposed to do? So I said, well, I think I prayed about it. I came to the conclusion that I am to talk about certain things. Each one of them were intentional, right? Yeah. Enthusiasm. How do we get here? Religiously. Yeah. Secular age. How do we get here? Politically, philosophically. The Father Lassant series. What are we then to do? How then shall we live? Yeah. How shall we defend our faith in this world of the age of the will? Things like that. So all of those things are equipping people to create structures and systems that can actually not just preserve us, right? So that we are able to survive, but that we can thrive and we can actually like move forward and make progress without just giggling. Because you're going to giggle. People are going to giggle themselves in a handbasket to hell. I mean, that's all that's going to happen. You can't giggle. You can't giggle your way to restoring all things in Christ.
I disagree. I think you can.
Purely just giggling at stuff. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
I think that humor, so it's a theory of humor, okay?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a theory of humor, but I believe that humor bridges the gap between, what we know we should do and the reality of our fallen nature. I used to love the show Beavis and Butthead. I think you're around that
I do
time.
too. I
And a
watch
lot
it
of
right
people
now.
were pearl clutching. That's just awful. I think it was a really great show because it was just about the stupidity of like teenage males, and yet it was affectionate towards them as well. I think.
Yeah.
I don't think it was just purely gross for being gross, because it's hard to do humor like that and make it funny, because if it's just fart, poop, poop, you know,
Right. Yeah.
it does get old. And I think Mike Judge was kind of a genius of doing that. So, but what I would like to say is propose, and who am I to propose anything to you, is, you know, I think we should have more of a Catholic brotherhood. And I love what the orthos are doing, which is these kind of UFC style, they call it blood sport debates. And
Yeah.
I think it'd be fun to get into that, almost like WWE, where like I play one character, you play another character, but not scripted, like genuine, but
Yeah.
like just to kind of blow it up and to draw attention to things in Christian charity. Nothing like crazy and angry. That's what. But
I think you're wanting something that, I think that's actually one of the things that hurt. And I like Dyer. Dyer's I consider him a friend. He's been kind to me. He's actually been really kind to me. He hasn't said anything too bad. In fact, he wants to talk to me about some stuff. But the thing is that I think that affects people. I think that when even the history of debate, you look and you say, Lincoln Douglas, right? There's a sense of seriousness about what they're doing.
Yeah.
It was 7 hours long.
Their
debates were 7 hours.
Yeah.
We live in a day and age of entertainment, but debating whether or not one must believe X, Y, or Z, or whether or not a certain policy or law is a violation of the common good or is unjust, that is not entertainment. And yet we've been primed by this. You can find it entertaining, but there's a lack of seriousness that says ultimately we derive this ultimately from TV, that you say, you hop on TV, you have two guys debating, and when it's all, and then you have somebody say, look, guys, that's a really fantastic debate about the most urgent issue in the world right now that people are dying over immediately right now. And that maybe we're spending trillions of dollars and going into debt forever. But we have to go to a commercial break. We'll be right back to talk about puppies this morning. Did you see what happened? And then you go and you watch Viagra commercial. Well, but that is not real. That is not going to help anything.
But some of these Jay Dyer debates go 2-3 hours and people seem interested.
That's fair. And I think that, so like, I don't know if I would consider that blood sport. So like some of the blood sport stuff, like, you know, I think to me with the blood sport, the only problem with that is not the vehicle per se. It's going to ultimately be the way that it affects the person in the way that they're talking to other people, the way, and that's going to ultimately, it's going to be difficult. You have to be on guard, which means you kind of have to be a virtuous person in a way to not allow that to become who you are, because this will be your persona. Yeah. Your persona will be the guy who sounds like, you know, and today on this kill stream, we're going to be talking about the Philly Oakway in this corner, this guy. And it's like, you're waiting for the music and the lights to come out and everything. It's like the Undertaker. Like on the other side.
Like I have a spandex suit and I have like a papal tiara, and it's like the papist comes into the ring and taps out. But I love all that. I love all that.
Look, I assume
think it would be a lot of fun.
I think the world of idiocracy would be a blast. I also think it'd be terrible. Like having President Camacho, right, coming out in his outfit looking like Macho Man Randy Savage. Like, to me, would that be fun? Dude, yeah,
well, that's what world we live in. What's President Trump except a member of he's a character. He's playing a character, and he's up to mischief, right? He's trying to reset the order by breaking down the order and not really succeeding, but kind of succeeding. But, you know, to have a real policy debate at this point, and Zelensky too he's a comic, right? I mean, and memes are kind of like, memes are really, really important in the world conversation. And I think like China knows it. They're memeing us, you know, and so like maybe this is a way to transcend this like kind of propaganda machine, but you have to, in a sense, be entertaining. That's what I feel like. Well, and I feel like embrace it. As Catholics, embrace it.
And I do. I started on my show with a song called "Danger Snow." Right? I got mariachi music. Stuff. Yeah, I got mariachi, man. Like, I'm rolling up with those Kanye glasses and stuff. So like,
That's what I think. I think you get it. But I think I wonder whether, like with the Groypers, you feel like, I don't want to do it. And I hear something in you saying, like, I don't want to go certain places.
Yeah,
And I say, why not? Why not have the Groypers have their own kind of thing?
Oh, they can. I'm not saying they
can't.
can't.
I'm saying invite them and kind of like do an intellectual body slam of them, and then they come back and they go back to the ring and they tap out. Who cares?
That would be something I would love. The only problem is, you mentioned this before, you said, and I agree with you, that you can have, let's say, comedic exchange, right?
Yeah.
And we're memeing each other to transcend.
Yeah.
But you have to have something to transcend to.
Yeah.
So if you come and you're like you're shooting a little pop gun at each other, ha ha ha, look, it says bang, and then you transcend and you reach that place and you go, okay, let's have that substantial debate, and you're like, I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. I've been giggling for years of my life.
Yeah, no. So yeah, you have to have some meat on the bones.
Yes,
right.
That's why I said.
But I'm saying, I don't think like you know the history of the church, the Arian controversies. People were like living that, right? Like the Arian controversy was like what I wake up in the morning to fight for or against. Yeah. And I think we're returning to that era because we've broken down our trust in the authorities, right? And I think this, last couple of years science has lost its authority. So people are now careening back going, what does matter? And they're really interested in religion, but they're also part of the TV culture. So why don't we grasp both of those things and do this on the internet? And I actually really believe, to give you like my real kind of vision here, I think the people of Ukraine and Russia should work it out on the internet in debates.
Yeah.
They should talk to each other. What are we doing? We're Christian people. We need to talk this out. And I've also started this thing with the Orthodox. We need to talk this out. Give me a break, guys. We are going to allow this 1,000-year rift that's based on, come on, not that much, to separate us. And now you guys are in a huge crisis. There's thousands of Christians dying at the hands of other Orthodox Christians.
And it should be done.
You need the Pope to come over there. Yeah. You need the Pope. You need the Bishop of Rome to say, put your arms down and settle this as human beings.
I'll add to the crazy of that and say, I think that it should be like a marathon where you are not allowed to stop. You have to have people fill in. So like one guy's too tired, the next person, because that is the reality of it when we don't resolve it today or tomorrow or the next day, is that would be a symbolic representation that every single day, this is what it looks like to the entire world.
I love
because that would be a reality of the situation.
And do you know
I can feel that.
And do you know that there are historical precedents to that? I think the Council of, I don't know what it was, the Council of Nicaea, I think was called by the emperor at gunpoint, right? And it's like, we're having
not a gun, but I know what you're saying.
Well, we're at sword point.
He's got a gun. I'm like,
but he forced them to stay in that council, and he cut off the food. Yeah. Right? So like, you better wrap it up or you're going to die of starvation in there. And if you try to run out, I got guys with whatever, swords. Right. And that is actually how the Holy Spirit resolved it. Now, we in our day and age think like, oh, no. We got to bring everybody to the table and we all got to act fancy. And there's no way we're going to be deprived of anything. I don't think that's true. I think you want me to tell you the truth. I think Vladimir Putin should call a council with the Pope, East and West. You've got to get together. We cannot
have double-headed eagle
III.
Stuff, homie. You're bringing back that double-headed eagle. Like, so, okay, I'm down with that.
That's right.
And you know what? And look,
because that Kirill, that Metropolitan Kirill, will listen to Putin. I think he'll listen to him.
And Putin would be down because Putin does like 4 or 5 hour long debates against media. I think it's every year. He sits down at a table by himself. I don't think he has any notes. He just sits there, and media representatives from around the world are able to stand up and argue with him, and he'll just boom, 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 and he'll do it like 4 or 5 hours straight.
Right. And he's happy to talk. He wants to talk. That's what he always says. I want to talk. The United States and the West doesn't want to talk. They just want to paint me as Hitler and then just bring the guns in. And he always says, I want to talk. So let's talk. But but he also needs the West. He needs the West because he's going to die as a war criminal, and he knows it. And so he needs some alliance with the West to have people give him a voice.
And this is like 2 birds with 1 stone. So I'm down with this idea.
But we start small.
Look, obviously I'm not opposed to technology. I think that's actually something, and people may not know this. Like some people might say, well, weren't you like really hardcore about Neil Postman and
Right.
his views, and I'd say I still am. However, Neil Postman was an escapist. He did not understand. He understood it, but he hated it. The idea that it does in fact become an extension of yourself.
Right.
So when a technology becomes an extension of yourself, to cut the cord is like you are ultimately going to be filleting your you're going to feel that you'll experience all sorts of difficulties with it. It's why it's so hard for people to leave Facebook and not go back, even if they hate the place and think Zuckerberg sucks. They're stuck with it. And in that world where that's the case, you sit there and you say you're going to have a couple different groups. So let's ignore the folks that are off the grid, right? Because that's not that it's not going to take off. You're going to have people that do that, but that's not going to be the driver. That's fine. Yeah, people allowed to do it.
It's always going to be a tiny minority.
But you will have two primary categories. One is the hog wild group. That's the group that's like, dude, AI, brother, we are going to put our brains in microchips.
Yeah.
And they're like, you ain't stopping them folks either. And then you're going to have people you can try. It's out of the bag,
but
man.
can I say one
Pandora's
thing about
box.
that? It only goes so far. Like this VR thing, I had some money and I wish I could have figured out how to invest against a stock because I knew this meta thing was going to be a disaster because human nature will not accommodate itself to Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse. It won't do it. So it's not really just that we are fallen and we will endlessly go. You know what I mean? Like pornography, even for people who are in it, there's only so much you can watch that before you're just like, ugh. You know what I mean? I hate it. And people of the Zoomer generation, it's interesting, because two of my kids have graduated recently from high school, and they're like, people don't like their phones. They hate their phones, you know? So we can offer something to them. And I think we should have like these places where you go for Lent and there's no technology. And we say like,
it's called a monastery, man.
Breathe the air. Yeah, right. Maybe monasteries should start doing that. But on the other hand, I think that we need to stop. There's a little bit of a kind of pearl clutching kind of thing that we're missing opportunities that are there. People are already connecting on the internet. I understand there's something proto-Gnostic about you and me connecting here. There's no relation to time and space. Well, it's to space, right?
Yeah, we're the kid from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, broken up into bits and reassembled on a screen to be a digital representation of you. Yeah.
But it's cool too because I'm really talking to you. You know,
and I'm trusting you are. I'm trusting. I'm not like in this solipsistic moment.
Right. On this other stream, they had me. I just went in there because I'm, whatever. I'm just like, well, I'd like to do a debate. They had me as a Hollywood. They had me as a media hitman first, then a Hollywood producer because I had a beard at the time. So I was like Jew Hollywood producer, whatever that means. Then I was a CIA agent. Then I was a federal agent. And they all got all the way to saying I may or may not be a demonic manifestation. I was like, guys, what the hell is wrong with you?
You were actually all of them. I mean, that's the thing. They were so close, but no cigars. You're all of those things together.
But I love them too because they're this. I mean, this was a subgroup within a larger subgroup, I think, of like conspiracy theory people. And so they were like the types who were like seeing federal agents all over the place, so it was interesting getting in there because they beat the hell out of me, and I'm like, seriously, my name's Ben Thorpe. I'm the only person who actually uses his name. And then they're like, oh yeah, sure. You know what I mean? And then I was like, well, I'll bring my birth certificate. Then I was like, I can't bring my birth certificate because of course you're going to analyze it and say it's not a real birth certificate.
Okay.
And it just, right. It just never ends. So I was like, guys, at some point you've got to own it. And if I am a demonic manifestation, you should just relax because you're effed. You know what I mean? You're not gonna be able to beat a demon because there's not even such a category in existence of an actual demonic manifestation. So but I was like, what are we so scared of? What are you so scared of? And how are you saying like you've broken into our sacred community of a bunch of people who aren't even using their name, aren't even using their picture in the little, thing. Yeah. And if I ask
which
a
is
question
amazing because you are and I am. Right? I mean, dude, come on now. Like, I'm using my real name.
Yeah, right.
I have my real picture, and people are like, "Oh, but I might get doxxed." I'm like, "Homie, I've been doxxed like 20 times."
Right.
Like, are you serious? And like, yeah. And I'm like, and if you're a normie guy,
Yeah.
and you're out there and you're afraid you're going to get doxxed, you got to ask yourself some serious questions about what maybe there's actually something up, man. Like,
Well,
I've never been kicked off YouTube.
right.
I've never been given even a strike by YouTube myself. I've been on one channel that got one time, and I predicted it. And it has to do with E. Michael Jones. I said, you
Well,
have
I'm
E. Michael
debating in a
Jones.
couple of weeks.
I said, you have E. Michael Jones on, dude. Your channel's gonna get a strike. So it did, and it did. And I think it was on unlisted. It didn't matter. But mine's never done
Why?
that.
Because his name appears and you got a strike?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was something that was said during the interview or what happened, but somebody had to have access. Somebody had to have the link, which meant it had to ultimately go through something that was either shared, that one of the patrons shared, because it's only patrons only. So either they shared it outside somehow and it caused it, but that was a strike, man. So on Facebook, the only thing that I ever got in trouble for, and it wasn't even in trouble. In fact, it was the kookiest thing I've ever heard. It's on Facebook. Facebook says they made it so I could no longer post live videos. Right. And that was actually a big deal because I back when I was at Holy Faith Media, I was on like 25 platforms and at one time, and it would be like maybe 4,000 or 5,000 live views every episode. So I'd have like cumulative. Well, Facebook was a big part of that because there was a lot of groups and pages and stuff. So the thing is, they told me you can no longer do that. And it was because of the Stop the Rob campaign. I won't say the whole thing. The algorithm hates me. So I go, hey, look, this is but they said, don't worry, you've done nothing wrong. Thank you for making Facebook such a safe and happy place. Yay. I'm like, what? And I'm talking controversial crap.
But I have to be honest and say, I actually like censorship because it causes you to be creative. You know what I mean?
Man.
I don't like the crassness. I wish they would kind of ban the gross words and the gross language.
Right.
I don't mind it. And I also think like there are certain things that are just sort of bad etiquette to talk about. Like, the stuff about the Third Reich, right? I just think like, okay, yeah, if you want to go do that somewhere, you can go do that somewhere. But I think like if you're just kind of, there's a certain, like the thing I was talking about with Grace, there's like a kind of edgelord who thrives on being right on the edge and saying the most risque things. It's the kid who does the swastika in the bathroom, right? And he does it backwards and he has no idea what he's doing, but he's just saying F you to society. I don't really think those people should have a place in mainstream platforms. And, how do you decide who decides who's in that space? Okay, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
But, if you look at I think you're somewhat of a film buff. The greatest films were made when there was this Catholic, whatever it was called.
Yeah.
That like was like
it was the
those
decency
are seen as
It was
those were seen as the glory years of Hollywood because they had to use subtlety. It was like Ronald Reagan's thing. It's a lot easier to make a movie with your clothes on than your clothes off. It's true.
Yeah, it was a subtlety. Like, I mean, people can kind of laugh now, but they'll know what I'm saying when you say a man and a woman, they grasp a hold of one another and they're staring in each other's eyes, and you have to put the light in to make it softer on the woman's eyes, that she has something he doesn't, to make it softer and doe-like. And then it goes outside and you see the cars passing by and their bodies in the shadow go down.
Yeah, exactly.
And the lights go off.
Right.
Like, that's more complex than just, hey, okay, now rip off your clothes off and do the leg spreading. Like, that's actually pretty easy. It's intuitive.
Yeah.
But it was it's cheap. Yeah. So it was a decency to it. You had to be creative about it. That's why I say stuff like Mustache Man. That's why I say the scientists who promote us dressing up like ninjas every day. Like, or the karonkadonk, the pokey. I say stuff like that. Like so I do things to say everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what I'm talking about. And
I think it's okay. It makes for interesting kind of like, it's just a whole culture of like irony and memes and everything. And in his society, young men, I would not say wear a shirt. There was a guy on one of these debates the other day. His name was Stop Zionism. I wouldn't say that's like, and it was a debate about philosophy. And I would say like, no, don't wear that. Don't do that stuff. It's not like, you can have your thing, but what you're doing is you're just being antisocial at a certain point. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you can have an idea about Zionism, but don't start every conversation with, who really owns that, who really is in control of that, because it's stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to do better. Like,
you could be obsessed. You're kind of saying like, this issue is so overwhelmingly important that it becomes my identity to be against this group of people. That's going to be
why it's an enthusiasm, dude. You mentioned that
Yeah.
earlier because and people look, they don't like that I said that AF is an enthusiast. They
Yeah.
don't like that. And I said, you fit all the markers, man. I said, and by the way, just to make it clear, just because they're enthusiastic does not mean they're not Catholic. Every enthusiast group was until told otherwise, right? So like there's that blurry line, like the church will never formally condemn as a heresy a group or as a heretical group, a group that's like otherwise totally orthodox. Like they're like, oh no, I'm like super legit. And it's like, well, dude, they're condemning something that's pre-existing. They're not making it up. It's not ex nihilo, right?
Yeah.
So it goes through the process. It reaches them. The church makes the verdict. It goes through. It's hierarchical. There's stages and phases, all that stuff. So the point is, it takes a while to get there. And some of those folks, man, are some of the most devout. I mean, I mention all the time, the Donatists. The Donatists, man, straight up, the family members dead because they wouldn't give up the sacred scrolls. Because they were willing to be martyred and die rather than give up the scrolls that, as far as they knew, were inspired. And what does the church do? Church says, not only can you come back if you did not die. You said, I'd rather give you this and save my own life, even while watching other people die. That those people, they say, look, you can't just let these people back in with a slap on the wrist and then allow them to be bishops. Are you nuts? So was that legitimate that they were upset? Of course. There's not even a question. Is it okay that they're upset because they feel like martyrdom, that people have been dancing on the graves of people that they watched die? Is that legitimate? Yes. Does that mean that justifies the other beliefs that go with it, or the circumcellions that walk up with big old clubs and spikes and nails and stuff and say, if you don't kill me, I'm going to kill you? And you're like, what? I don't know you. And like, I'm serious right now. And they're dead serious. They really do want you to kill them, or they will kill you. So you're at that place. Those are the circumcellions. That wasn't immediate. That took a while.
Yeah.
But that enthusiasm ends up going. Same thing with the Quietists. Same thing with the Montanists. So there's an internal debate. But the idea is you have a group that has an energumen, right? You've got somebody who's the conduit. Yeah. And that person, you say, well, what do you guys believe? Well, go talk to Madame Guyon.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, okay. Like, so, you'd go talk to Arnauld. Mother Angelique, go talk to them, right? Go talk to Dante. So you have to figure out what you have to believe based on this. And then, or they'll say, well, just talk to the group. And you go and you talk to the group, and that group tells you, go talk to the guy. But then you go and you watch the guy, and you come back to the group and say, well, this is what he said. And they say, well, you don't understand him. And you say, why don't you understand him? Because you don't get it. And I said, you guys are hermetically sealed then.
But I think Nick Fuentes is not a theologian and doesn't claim to be a theologian.
Yeah. He's not even close though.
Whereas these guys, Spexo and Pinesap, I think are
good guys,
actually
by the way.
Really interesting. Their attempts to like explore race and Catholicism and Judaism and I mean, those are third rails. These guys have been Catholic for 2 years, and they're taking the papal documents, which they call papal documents, and you know what I mean. It's like they're obviously autodidacts, right? And it's like but they've got it all there, and they're trying to work through it sincerely. I think they're doing the church a tremendous favor, because who else is going to touch that, right?
Yeah.
You can't touch it as a Catholic school teacher. You can't touch it as a bishop. You can't touch it as a priest. But young people are saying, well, I keep hearing all this stuff about IQ tests and whatever, right? So it's there in my head. How is it, and I think Nick Fuentes does mostly good of keeping people who would go in those directions saying like, no, we're not going to do that. But what I find interesting in their dynamic is that celibacy, which is, you're right to say is not celibacy,
right?
But it's a kind of chastity, but it's also, it becomes an anger at women. And then that energy is directed towards the male leader. And I find that really weird, because I'm not saying they're gay, but you know what I mean? It becomes like very strange that your kind of energies are going towards another man.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of saying, and I get it, I'm just not dealing with women at all whatsoever. But like that has,
but to say I'm not dealing with women because I'm reaching for glory. I mean, and they can say, well, he's just being ironic. But there we are again. We're back at a place where the only people who can possibly know are the people who just get it. And if you don't get it, it's because you don't fit the demo. I mean, you're outside the demographic. And yet they will refer to people outside the demographic who do get it. So it must be magical. So, I mean, these people have some magical ability so it's not the demographic per se, because you've got Michelle Malkin. She's a chick, right?
Yeah.
But she's a chick. She ain't white. That's for sure.
Right.
So you've got all these things going on with her. You've got other people that they would say, well, that person gets it or this person gets it.
Yeah.
And they're older because they use them, Paul, older people, Gosser or whatever.
Even Milo, Nick Fuentes was friendly with Milo. I think some people were like, that's too whatever. But also, I mean, there's also I don't want to call it hypocrisy, but you're against race miscegenation, but you are yourself 1/4 Hispanic. So, I mean, that doesn't quite make sense. And a lot of
it makes no sense at all. He had a speech at AFPAC, and I didn't really get to say this in the video with them. I didn't bring it up. But the idea that he's there and he's going against this chick, man, I forget her name offhand. But he's going against her and he's saying, her parents come over and her parents, taught her to love the country, but really they're just economic migrants. And it worked out good for her. And she's just doing it for that reason. Number one, that is the most uncharitable rendering you could possibly give somebody that is an otherwise conservative person who claims to love God, all this stuff, and is grateful for the country. He said, my parents taught me to love this place. I love this place. I want to preserve those very things that have made this what it is to us and been accepting, and to come at that person in that way. And then to say, well, as an immigrant, what is the dream for that person? And then admitted that it was less than 100 years ago that his family came over. In that way, and we're back to enthusiasm. In that way, it's like the founding of Nation of Islam. It's by a mixed guy.
Right.
So the white man's the devil. The white man's the devil. And black people have a special germ in their, semen that allows this to the godhood of them, right, in this weird world. And so in their weird universe they have. And so the thing is, but that guy, and same thing with Farrakhan. People talk about Farrakhan, he's light skinned, and there were, people like he's not dark skinned. But you say, just going back to the founder.
Who's that?
Louis Farrakhan?
Oh, Farrakhan. Yeah.
So Louis Farrakhan. So but you got the founder, the silk salesman that nobody knows where he's from or whatever. That cat, dude, he's obviously mixed. I mean, they have to deal with it somehow. But somehow from that guy comes the idea that nobody can, and that it's totally wrong. It's essentially like a mortal sin, what we would call a mortal sin.
Right.
You don't.
Well, it has to be by the logic, right? That it's in the blood.
It's in the blood. Yeah, it's in the semen and stuff. Right? And so these folks,
genetic,
and it's godhood.
Yeah.
So in godhood to them is genetic, because they don't believe in what they call the spooks, right? They don't believe in spookiness, which is spirits, souls. It's a materialist universe. Even their God is a product of it. Yeah,
kind of like a backwards Nazism or something, right? Yeah, pure blood and all that stuff.
Pure blood, and so it's kind of that. But you say, it's a weird thing that the guy we're all kind of going to talking about whether or not this is good or bad or anything else. This cat is the product of that.
Yeah, right.
Of course.
But I think enthusiasm can be cool. I think, great. I'm glad to see young people who are enthusiastic. And I know you're using it in a definition. You're using it in a technical way, but there is some overlap. I think that having young people engaged instead of bitter and nihilistic, I understand it would be better to have institutions which form them and help them well, we don't have them. I taught in Catholic school for 10 years.
Yeah.
You're not going to learn the faith there. If anything, you're going to be just totally turned off by it. So they're online. They're a little wound up. They get some things wrong that I think guys like you and I have a little more experience with, like the dating thing, just kind of coming at a female, this is what we're doing, honey, and I'm going to be the alpha male.
Yeah. And that those are the only women. That's why I said a subset of a subset. I said, when you get into a world where you're like, I'm Latin Mass exclusive, homie, and I'm mega dope trad, but I'm also not a mad trad because I support, if they're a Pine Sap guy. And by the way, Pine Sap and Specs are great guys as men.
Super smart.
And so super smart, wonderful guys. They condemned some of the comments that went into the chat during my live stream where it was talking about
Yeah.
that Nick wouldn't be with my daughter sexually. I mean, it was outrageous. And they said if anyone that they know did that, they're banned for life automatic.
Yeah.
So good guys.
I think
you know?
Nick also, from what I'm not going to like name drop like I know Nick Fuentes. He just doesn't seem like he's inclined to go too much into the Jewish stuff. Like he doesn't want to just have that be everything he's about.
He's not Michael Jones.
Yeah, right. And
Michael Jones could talk about the bubble gum inside of those old football card packets, and somehow you're going to get, a Weissman or a Medishevitz somewhere. I don't know how you're going to do it. Yeah,
I think he's an interesting guy because he's sort of taken that lane and saying, like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And I think actually the way he uses the phrase, the Jews, is actually in a weird way respectful of Jewish people. Instead of saying the elites, the Hollywood elites, the Wall Street, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
If I was Jewish, and I may be a little bit, but
you might be. It's all secretive, dude. Everybody's on you, bro. You're
my
done.
dad told me that I am.
You're
but I did my
dude.
But I did my 23andMe, and it came up no. But
really,
they're all mixed.
That's a conspiracy too. I mean, we all know that's part of it. That's part of the elaborate scheme.
Hey, I don't want to keep you too long.
Yeah, no.
I'm so glad you came on. I would love to propose that, like, say for example, you could get Spexo into it, that we have a little bit of a more organized match, but maybe not on something as vague as Is America First and Enthusiasm, but something a little more tight, and just have it out. And then their guys can come in and they can do their Pepe the Frog thing a million times.
You can do that, man. That's a world. I'll tell you, that's a world. You can find some good guys in there. But again, we're back to you can't confirm or deny any which way, because you can have people saying the most vulgar, offensive things in your chat, and we had to we were banning them left and right. It's terrible. We don't like doing that, but it was happening.
Right.
But the thing is that, well, those aren't really our guys. Our guys would never. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, so it doesn't. So it's one of those, heads I win, tails you lose scenarios constantly. And it doesn't matter. As I said, if you
personally disavow, right? But then
if you're
guys
escape hatch
on the fringe,
if your escape hatch in a debate is you don't get it because you're old, I'm not even going to debate you. If you cannot argue by using reason transcends that. Okay.
No, I know.
You can be a 10-year-old kid. My son's talking to me about, we're talking about time travel, and is it possible? And he's like, well, the problem is impotentia. Like, and I'm like, yeah, okay. So like in potency, like in potential, like how do we deal with this? He understood certain categories. He understood the law of non-contradiction. He understood that. He understood you can't pitch something that you won't be able to falsify, verify, anything like that.
Yeah.
And expect that person to feel compelled to believe it, or to even take you seriously if you say that you really, really do. Like, you have to have some meaningful way, or else you're two towers. That's it.
Yeah, but they're never going to say to you, you're old, therefore none of your arguments make any sense. They're just going to say you don't get it, something like that. Anyways, I think we should be the Gen X team against those two guys about dating. About dating, not about Nick Fuentes.
Well, I'd rather see.
They'd enjoy it.
I'd rather do something different. I kind of don't want to make a big deal out of this because I got accused, man. People are like, "Oh, you're just ankle biting." And I'm like,
yeah.
I've talked about Nick one time.
Let's do that. We're midlife crisis guys.
We're
the midlife crisis guys who are trying to get some clout from Nick Fuentes. Who cares?
I'm like,
who cares?
I said it didn't matter, because if somebody talks about you and he mentioned, I don't know this guy, blah blah, and he says that in front of 10,000 people or whatever. If you respond, then you're just an ankle biter.
I get it.
If you don't respond, well, it's because you're kind of dude, it's a lose-lose. Again, heads you win, tails I lose.
And so why not embrace the loss? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well,
you're in the game, so why not just embrace the L and say, I'm I'm everything you think I am and more. Now let's talk about actually something of substance. And
I'll leave it with this, because unlike the lack of seriousness over there, I have a tremendous amount of seriousness about social theory, media theory, political economy, and the Catholic faith. And all of those things have been around for 2,000 years. And more, some of them with social theory, we can talk about, it's like we've had societies for a minute. And so the way that this works, and Catholic action, the idea of saying, I take very seriously the idea of the restoration of all things in Christ the King. I take it deadly seriously. And I say, I have a lot of fun But I'm also the guy that says the idea that, well, just action, everybody, just move. I'm like, that is ridiculous.
Huh.
I'm like, the idea, you look at all the movement, look at all the crazy going on. And
Yeah.
you're like, okay. And you're like, how is this leading to Christ the King? Well, we don't really have anything yet. So I said, look, I take it too serious. I say they can do what they do. I do what I do.
Yeah,
and
no,
I think
I
can't make ground in the stuff I do if it's not for the people who emphasize action over theory. And I prioritize both. I'm a both and guy. I say, look, you got to breathe out of both lungs. You got to be able to have action. Otherwise, you're just sitting there just in your brain all day long. But if you're just action without the brain, how do I know what you're acting upon is good, other than assuming that you're in some kind of energumen, that you've got this intuitive thing that's guiding you in the moment every second, and you just are doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, what a joke. You can't judge that. And if
there's some of that, right? That's life. There's some of that.
Well, but the moment you do is the moment that you are saying that it relies on more than just action. You're judging it. You're judging it with your mind. So
prudence. We call it prudence, right?
So you need to be able to have a standard by which to do that. And if you want to be a movement that's actually making ground, there's certain things. And so to me, I'm far more interested in that. I love talking to you. And your daughter's, I'm bummed out, man. Your daughter booked out of here. But
I'm here.
I've been accused of using her as a sexual prop because my audience is 94%. And she's also, I love it. I think it's fine. You want to say that I'm pimping
the
out
channel
my daughter
girl
because she's cute? I don't have any problem with that. Let's bring the views and let's talk about it.
Yeah,
I don't see what the problem is.
They're going to be like, dude, this guy's the worst dad.
They killed me already.
So I appreciate what you said, by the way, Grace. I was listening in the car. Yeah, I was listening and stuff, and we were getting our haircut. So that's why, it took a while. But you mentioned the thing about defending the ladies for a second, right?
Mm-hmm.
And standing up for them, standing up and saying, no, that's not how it works. And I take that real seriously. I remember when I first got on the meaning of Catholic, there were like no chicks hardly. Right. There's a couple, but in our chat, there was like 3, and that was it. And I was really upset because when I was doing Holy Faith Media talking current events, not only did I have people from all different walks of life, all different religious affiliations, political spectrum, all that, but a lot of women. In fact, if you go and you look, you see the comments, it might even be a majority women. And I made a joke about it saying, it's a pretty even balance, 95%, women. And it was a joke. And it was a video called Why Women Love My Show or something like that. And it was really cool. It was fun. But the thing is I'm very serious about it. So when I told people in my chat, some of my admins and stuff, I said, we need to get women. They thought I was joking. And I'm like, no, I'm dead serious. 3 of the 5 people who work for my apostolate are chicks. I take it super serious.
Yeah, the internet is very dude kind of like it's a
in general.
Especially this
I think
kind
women
of
are more afraid of it than they should be. I don't think they should care. Some guy wants to be a weirdo on the internet. Who cares? Let him be a weirdo.
And this talk about always pulling him down from a pedestal, I'm like, and that actually bothered me a little bit. I'm like, for one, I asked him, I said, what do you call it when a dude's putting his coat on the ground? What is that? You guys talk about chivalry and valor. And what is it? What is it when you have a dude willing to go and joust with another guy? I don't know if you guys have ever seen an actual joust before. I have.
Yeah, we have.
It's not
King Richard's Fair.
It was in the fair, so it's as close as you get. Those dudes were not using the rounded off things with the special cushion. Those dudes were trying to kill each other, right? Yeah. So that kind of a thing, I said, that our idea of valor and our idea of chivalry and what we say, there is an aspect of that the woman is in fact on a pedestal. That's why when you have home, when you're in your house, you say she's the queen of the home. You don't just go, yeah, potato sack Sally's at home, take my old ball and chain, taking care of the kids and making my sandwich. Well, you can say it, but the truth is it's only, you can only say that insofar as everyone deep down inside knows that you are totally whipped and madly in love with your wife. And you think your wife is awesome. And if you can't say that to your wife, man, awesome.
She's a nice person. Let's leave it at that. We're working through things. But I'm saying people like you and me,
you know what I mean.
People like you and me, we have an experience to draw from. Yeah. Listen, I'm going to head out because I got to have my cigarette, and I'm so excited. I just have to.
I'll talk to Grace for
soothe myself.
5 minutes, and I'm out.
Thanks so much for coming by.
Of course, man. God bless you, homie. Yeah. Grace.
He's an addict. Yes.
Yeah, he's an addict. He's just it's real bad. It looks like he's rolling up joints too. He's got the little twist at the end of that thing. I'm like, bro,
I roll them for him. They're
really?
just cigarettes. They're cigarettes. They're cigarettes.
So like, but people made
that's
fun.
my woman duty.
That's your woman duty. Like, so are you making sandwiches too, or what? Like, are you cooking? You cooking the food?
Yeah. I help my mom with that kind of stuff.
You help your mom. That's good. So yeah, but that's the thing is, dudes, it's like an overreaction, right? So
yes. Yeah. They get into this thing where, and I understand they're trying to like defend themselves, like they're kind of saying like guys are getting attacked, and I do get that. But when you like, you're basically just being a simp, but the other way around by saying like, I hate women, they're the problem in society. Well, we're in this together. You know what I mean? We're 50%. Like you can't. It's just a little bit childish just to say that. You know what I mean? It's not really. I just think it's kind of like not very masculine. It's juvenile.
Well, that's the whole thing, is that, you will leave your mother and your father and you'll cleave to your wife. Why are you leaving them for her? Right? Like, what's that all about, man? Why are you, why not making her come to you? Like, it's weird. And you go, because, dude, you're going to cleave to your wife. You're showing her that you are willing to sacrifice your life as Christ sacrificed it for the church. Do you think Christ put the church on a pedestal? In a way, that there's a sense of that he's willing to sacrifice his life.
Yeah.
You're not sacrificing your life for something you think is chump change.
Right.
And so you go, look, and that's to us instructive. And I say, dude, in that sense, if I'm to love my wife, and men are to view women in this way, that say, look, I'm willing to I'm willing to walk 9,000 miles. Right? I'm willing to do whatever I got to do. It's a manly thing to say. You're not a simp to say that. It's some of the greatest most manly, masculine, baby making poetry that's ever existed in the history of mankind. And you sit there and some good songs too. But the point is, like, if dudes don't figure this out, they're toast.
Yeah, I mean, the whole simp thing, like, girls do find it attractive when a guy like can't get like stopped, that they just want to see them all the time. You know what I mean? But you also, the simpy thing, I get it. But what do you think about this thing that I've seen kind of crop up? It's this thing where they say like women should basically wear a sack until they get married. And then, it's a free for all. You should look good for your husband. But until then, they're tempting men by being sort of like wearing makeup or showing off their body. And that's immoral. Like, and that's only for married people.
Yeah, that's what. And what they don't understand is that has never, ever been real. Yeah. And that's because when you're single, it is a marketplace, right? You want a dude to recognize you, and not just for your looks. But dudes are born with fully functioning eyes. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, right. I just think it actually gets into sort of like a Muslim point of view. Like, you're actually going like way too far, kind of saying like until women are 50 years old, they should kind of just be in the house because they're going to turn men on. It's like, okay, well, I didn't know we were that puritanical.
Well, and I said that too, because of situations where people would come in and be critical of a person. And I told him, I said, you can even agree. I could agree with your criticism of photos or whatever, but that doesn't warrant coming in with no name, public name, no face, no nothing. You don't know the person, but you're dragging them digitally to the center of the town square and using their name and throwing them under the bus and saying, everybody look, condemn, condemn, condemn. I said, bro, that's like no-go zones over in England. That ain't America. That's not Christendom. Where do you get that warrant? And then it turns into, oh, you think if it's not in the Bible or you can't find it with the saint? And I'm like, on matters of faith and morals, kind of, yeah. like otherwise I'm just listening to you. And who are you, Mr. Rando Joe? Nobody knows who you are. Like, it makes no sense. Makes no sense.
The thing is, it's real easy to shit on teenage girls. Let's be honest. Like, it's pretty easy, especially when, a lot of teenage girls don't have a lot of guidance. It's real easy to shit on them for being, provocative or whatever. We're all trying to, make it work. I just think like it's kind of not very masculine to be like angry at women, because you're kind of putting them on another pedestal. You're just saying like, I'm a victim of you. We're not victims of each other. Let's be friends and work it out together.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, it's one of these things. I go back to the beginning and I say, it's not good that man's alone. That's not just true in your day-to-day affair, but all the things that are connected with that. And that would include taking dominion and restoring all things for Christ the King. That's part of that. And there's a reason why the women have played a dynamic role, and an increasingly dynamic role in the history of the Catholic Church. So, and you can see that even with the number of females that we have now, women that we have as doctors of the church. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I saw a tweet about that. It was like, you know how many women doctors, female doctors of the church there were before Vatican II? 0. You know how many there are now? 4. What do you
And I
think
love that guy.
means?
It's Timothy Gordon. He's a friend of
yeah,
mine.
it was him.
Him and his wife, it's like one of those things where I love them to death, man. They're the kind of people that send flowers to my wife every year on the date of our daughter's death, which is, it's our firstborn died of brain cancer at 12.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Her funeral was on my wife's birthday. So every birthday, my wife, it's part of that, like the memory. So the Gordon family, Steph and Tim, send flowers. They are unique in that regard. But when it comes to this issue, I'm like, bro, we're gonna disagree a little bit. But my point being, it's not good that men are alone. The church has provided enormous amounts of women throughout the ages that have played an active role, even in society sometimes where it's opposed to it. And you say, especially now. And the idea that a woman before she's married would not be presentable in a way that's not, that would be beautiful, right? Elegant, formally, clothing would be appropriate, and yet at the same time drawing attention, but not cavalier, any kind of like over the top, sensual, erotic stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a line there, and you don't need it necessarily laid out, crystal clear all the time. But at the same time, to say that's okay because they are trying to get themselves a husband. They want to be seen. There's a sense that men are visual creatures. And I said this on a show. I said, look, dudes are the kind of people that if a guy's working all day long, comes home smelling like Duke, right? He's got a bunch of armpit stains, yellow collar and stuff because he's nasty as crap. He ends up falling asleep in front of the TV, eating way too much food than he should, not helping out around the house. His shoes smell like crap. And the wife goes, takes a bath. He wakes up, staggers upstairs, leaves his dishes all over the place, falls on the bed to fall asleep. The woman gets out of the shower, walks in the room wearing her bathrobe, and smells delicious. That dude is going to pop his eyes open and immediately want to make babies. That woman ain't down. She's going to say, you kind of got to get me there. Like, this is not the thing. I
don't think that's true, actually. I saw a TikTok just the other day, and this woman, she had this video of her husband. He was covered in dirt. He was like a construction worker, and she was like, "This is the hottest my husband ever is." So I think you're actually kind of wrong about that.
If he's working,
and obviously if it's disgusting, but like, I'm just saying, like,
I laid it on thick. If he's working, of course he's going to be hot because the dude is providing for them.
Yeah.
Right. So if the dude's out there, he's showing, I'm willing to sacrifice my time, my effort, my strength, my emotion, things I want to do because I'm with you. Right. But that's it. But once you're done, you should also maybe sacrifice that by going and taking yourself a shower and maybe changing your clothes. So like those simple things. But what I'm saying is the emphasis, and it's simple why. We've kind of lost a little bit of that because of contraception. But part of the reason why is because women have a caloric thing at stake that men don't. They get pregnant. And if they get pregnant, they are going to have a baby. And that baby is going to is part of them. And they're going to, in all likelihood, gain weight. Their hips are going to get bigger. They're going to need to eat more food. They're going to be kind of bummed because they get stretch marks. All of those things the dude doesn't have. He's Johnny Appleseeding it all over the place. He doesn't care. So he doesn't have that the same way. So he's eye-oriented, just boom, 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 go, 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 make babies.
Yes.
A woman, on the other hand, can be, in fact, more selective. That's what I'm saying. So the man being emphasis of the eyeballs, right? That being the case, not that women don't have eyes, right? We know it.
Right.
But that it's not the dominant and it's not as exclusive as it is for a man. That in that way, women, it makes sense that women would doll themselves up. And that a man can have a dad bod.
But
That's why.
some people say makeup is disingenuous, right? Like it's just you're selling a lie, right?
Well, in a way, but I think we all know it's makeup, though. I don't know
Yeah,
anybody
right.
that says, "Oh
Well,
no, that's exactly what she looks like." I
what
mean,
I
you,
would yeah, it's a way of showing that you care, right? It's like showing like I want to look good for you, but obviously, yeah, I don't have like bright purple lips or whatever.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. So, like, you've seen Grace, right? On YouTube, there are ladies that will show the final product of themselves at the beginning of the video, and then
Yes.
it starts back at the beginning, and they don't look anything like that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah, I've seen
that's
it.
a complete
Right.
mask at that
Right.
point.
Right.
That the church doesn't support that, right? Because
No,
that at
no,
that
right.
point you are now fake.
Yeah.
But the idea of wearing something that accentuates, that's different than something that dominates and perpetuates a false mask.
Yeah.
If you're wearing something that goes along with your lip color and your eyes and stuff like that,
Yeah.
you're not tricking anybody. You're
I
just
always
not.
end up talking
Yeah.
about this on this stream. I don't know. I think like
Well,
conservative
I like
religious
talking
people,
about stuff. I'm good with it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it always
No.
well, what I'm interested in is I think that you would admit that there is a certain Christian girl stereotype where this girl like kind of doesn't dress super fashionably, kind of hides her body and kind of thinks she's better than other people because of that, right? Like there is definitely that out there.
Yeah, yeah. And
Well,
I think if we lived in a society where they could wear burqas, I think some of them would. I do.
I
They'd be
think they
like,
try to,
look,
some of them.
I am so hardcore, and now there is a way to do that. And let me be fair to this. There's a way to do that and look mega hot, right? You can wear beautiful clothes, like Mad Men era stuff, right? Super hot. I'm
What do
betraying
you
a
mean?
little bit of my
You
own
mean the
style.
burqas?
No. I'm saying the outfits that are classical, that don't show a bunch of skin, and yet
Oh
at the
yeah.
same time don't look like potato sack Sally. You don't need to look like the
Yeah.
poor family on Little House on the Prairie, right? Because
Yes,
I
right.
don't ever want to throw the Ingalls under the bus, because that mom, she was stylish. I love her style. I'm like, I ain't even lying. We cannot say Little House on the Prairie. People should repent of that and say,
But wouldn't
dude,
you
tell
say
Catherine she's good. Yeah.
But wouldn't you say like it is not the duty of a Christian woman to dress outside of societal norms? Like
Right.
I don't know how to say that, but if the societal norm is leggings and a crop top, which a lot of the time it is, or what girls also do when they don't want to deal with the whole sexual thing is they just wear sweatpants and a hoodie, right?
Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that.
Right, but
Women don't listen to her.
No.
Yeah.
Right, no, I
Sweatpants,
agree. It's kind
socks
of
and sandals.
kind of worse. Oh, it's
Yeah.
awful, right?
Do
Because
you wear socks with sandals, Grace? Do you? Do you wear socks with your sandals? I need to know this.
I mean, once in a while, but
No,
I know
no.
it's terrible.
No.
It's a terrible look.
Don't do it. No.
But I really think there's not much of a place between supposedly being a prude and being
Yeah.
sort of like dressing slutty. I don't think there's much of a place in between in current society. If you like, and if you want to dress like you're from the 1950s, then fine. But then you are kind of saying like, I am really taking a risk here. And I think there should be a normal way to dress for, Christian modest girls. And I really don't think there's a space right there right now. I just think it's been taken over by this sort of good Christian Protestant-y kind of thing. And I really hate that, but I also don't like leggings. So I think it's an interesting, I just don't really think there's much
You
of a
got to be
place
part
for
of the
women.
Take It Back crowd. You got to be part of the Take It Back, because look, there's a way. As I said, there's a way to do it. I see them. I see young ladies at our church, for example, that their dresses are awesome. They look and they're stylish in a way that does not make them antiquated. So they're not antiquarians. They don't look like they're coming out of the 1800s or early 1900s. And they're wearing a diversity of styles and textures and everything else, colors and all that. And of course you can modify with bracelets and other things, right?
Mhm,
So
yeah.
you can do your hairstyle, you can do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but women could dress more traditional in that way. But I'm also not opposed to women wearing slacks or whatever. Like I'm not sitting there getting grinding my teeth because female politician is wearing a pantsuit. Like that's not.
Yeah.
I'm not angry about. I might not think that it's the coolest thing in the universe, but I've seen decent women's suits like that. And so I don't know. I think there's a way to do it, but I think it's unfortunate that we live in this crazy world where we've got a lot of guys that have otherwise good views on a bunch of stuff that pigeonhole themselves into if they're against birth control, but their beliefs are birth control. Like they're not getting laid. Like I don't mean to be rude, but crude, but they're just not going to make the babies if they are going to have beliefs that make them a smaller group out of a bigger one. So like trad, and then you're like Latin mass only. And then you're like, on top of that, you're also a nationalist. On top of that, you're also an AF guy. And on top of that, you really hate women. Your group is getting like this. And so now you're like in this really, and you're like, I'm also maybe a monarchist. Like,
are you calling them incels?
No, well, people call themselves that. But I'm saying they do it ironically. But I would say they are making themselves that. So it would not be involuntary. They would be making themselves that by limiting, making themselves such that when a man presents himself, if he goes and talks to a lady, the idea for some weird reason is like that the only reason why they're not being accepted, a lot of these kind of guys, the reason they're not being accepted is because women are just crazy liberal right now. And I'm like, it's because the reaction to the general liberalism has been this crazy, fanatical, enthusiastic drive that's led people to a smaller subset to now in any day and age, you'd actually be much smaller of a demographic than you even think. Well, and people would not be interested.
Well, they kind of get into this space where they say like, yeah, it's not my job to be attractive to a woman. And it's like, well, it's not.
It is. You have a responsibility too. Yeah. That's guys who talk that way, as I said, and that's why it's actually adding injury to their own insult. Is that when they make fun and say, oh, well, you people who are older, they don't get us. And you know what? Like, yeah, people trying to give us advice is like the old man saying, I've been working on cars for 50 years. And you're like, I've been making babies. I got married and made babies. Like, I'm not talking about a car, homie. We're talking about the lot of all men, unless you are called to the holy order, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Religious life, holy order, or you're macking it with your wife. Like that's so if you need to listen, in fact, to guys, and that's the biblical precedent. That's the biblical precedent. It's the Catholic precedent. It's the Western precedent. This idea that you are respecting the people who are older than you, you're honoring them, and you are learning from them. You don't just assume that, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. Well, obviously they do, because their generation keeps going.
Yeah,
my DNA, my ideas, and my DNA shall keep on living even after I'm dead.
Right.
And I said, that's because I have recreated, we've reproduced, and I'm raising them in the fear of the Lord. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying like these guys who like think they call themselves incels, let's just say, to not be insulting.
Yeah. They call them, it's not an insult to them.
And there's this black pill thing where people say, have you ever heard of it?
Of course,
yeah. It's sorry, I don't know why I said it like that.
No, you're good. You're good.
But it's really crazy. It's like it's this idea that we need a systemic. The problem is, if you start saying that women don't find you attractive because they have a problem, that's not true most of the time. Yeah. I think. And the same for women. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can't like be coached on how to, if you don't want to appeal to females, then you're not going to be attractive to them. I don't know what to say. You have to appeal. You have to find your magic, and we can't just yell at women and say, well, it's their fault. They're tempting us all the time. Like, that's not really true. It's a fallen society. You can't just pick one sex and just say like, oh, it's all their fault. I just
just say they. What is that? What are you talking about? What is they? Like, well, just the women. Well, what's that? Are there not differences? Are you going to lump in the women in church that are faithfully going to church and trying their hardest to love God and serve him in this world to be able to do it in the next? Are you accusing them of being inseparable indistinguishable from the women of the world? Are you serious? If so, dude, back in the day, Catholic dudes would whoop those guys. They'd say, how dare you? Because we're raising those girls. How dare you say that, homie?
Yeah, right. Well,
We'd
I
stand
actually
up
have
for our own.
Yes, I agree. You shouldn't like just lump everybody in, but I actually think, right? So you would say like there's traditional women and then there's women who are kind of like out in modern society, right? And they might have casual sex, they might, a lot of things, right? And they might be nice girls, but they're doing that, right? They're not guided, right? They're lost kind of.
Right.
And we want to offer those women something better, right?
Yeah.
I would absolutely agree. But I think we have a real problem because I think what's being offered, this idea that you're going to come from this, right? And you're going to learn how to cook, learn how to clean, learn how to support your husband out of nowhere and have a bunch of kids. I don't think that's possible. I think women are trying to do that. And I don't think they can do it without a society that's helping them. So I actually don't think the traditional woman thing really works out. I could be wrong.
I'll say this before I leave. And by the way,
I'm sorry.
No. You're good.
Sorry.
I was upset that you left. I'm like, man, you're the one you're like, oh, Paleocrats here. I'm like, come on, girl. So you're good. Your dad's awesome, man, and you're doing good. But I was gonna say, so like, there's a dude who has died, and I man, if I remembered his name offhand, he had a show, right, where let me get his name, that way I can black dude telling black ladies about high value men. Kevin Samuels, it came up. So, okay, Kevin Samuels, right?
Okay, Kevin
Dude
Samuels,
is dead
yeah.
now. It's a tragedy, actually. He was doing the world a service. What he would do he would be there he would tell black ladies, it started out with them and turned into any woman, who would come in and say, I want to have a high value man. I believe I have the right. And he'd say, well, do you have any kids? Yeah, I got 2. Well, how many, or 3? Are you married to the man that is the dad? No. How many dads do you have? 3. How old are you? 37. How much do you weigh? Right. And then he'd ask a question and say, so we're talking bad all around. We're talking used goods, big time. Yes. But the idea is, well, I deserve that. And you say, why? Why do you deserve that? What have you done that's actually showing you deserve that? I'm not saying this just to say it about women. There's plenty of videos people can watch that themselves to hear what he said.
Sure.
I'm saying that to men. I'm saying you want the high value woman. Your value is different. They're looking for money. You're working. Duh, you're trying to be that high value man. But you want that high value woman that knows and has the ability to have all those things that you value very highly. And you're acting as if that's the common norm. As if that's just the way, that's the way it always was. And I say, dude, you are lying to yourself. You're LARPing. That's not how it was always and forever.
You mean that high value women, there's not a lot of them?
Otherwise, they're not high value. Otherwise, if everything's high value, it's not high value, right? What makes it high value is its rarity. So like you say, these women, most women struggled like most women do now. They struggled with it, right? You still had difficult things. Go back in time and say, man, were there things that were better than right now? Oh, sure. No doubt, right? Some of that we can't avoid because we don't make the law, unfortunately, It's like there's certain things, contraception, divorce, all sorts of stuff. But at the same time, were there difficulties that women experienced, right? Did they have that feeling that they weren't as very special, or they weren't beautiful, or they needed to dress and present themselves a certain way to get people's attention? Did they want to do more than feeling like they're only at home with the kids all day and that the guy takes it for granted while he's out at the bar after work? Is that old? Ancient. Yes. And I say, but in that world, those women, so all these dudes want the high value man or high value woman. All these dudes over there talking this way. They want that high value woman. And yet, if you ask them what they're doing to even be in that person's life, if you pull a Kevin Samuels on reverse and you ask them, how many women like that do you have in your life? They don't have any. They're waiting for, they're like waiting for Cinderella to show up at their house with a glass boot and say, does this fit you? Oh, you're the one I've been looking for. Right. That is magic thought. That's it's not real.
Yeah. I think modern men have to learn to work with modern women. You can't just wait for this sort of person who doesn't really exist.
Hey,
I've been talking
It's good.
Jeremiah's ear off.
Yeah, but no, I gotta go. But I'm glad you came in so I could say goodbye to you, Ben.
Thank you so much.
This
thanks for
show
coming
is
on.
bursting with energy, dude. It's a good show. You two are doing really good. God bless you guys.
Thank you very much.
And stay in contact with me. You know,
Yeah,
I'd
let's
love to
do
come
it.
back and do this and have you guys even on my show and stuff. So
Yeah,
I think it'd be
love
a lot of
to.
fun. All right.
Love to. Great. So thanks so much.
Yeah. God bless both of you. All right. Bye.
Wow. That's
What a
amazing.
Great guy.
Yeah.
So
see, that's the kind of thing. And no shade to the chat or whatever, and the Spexo guys and all that. But I think it's hard to occupy that space. And I came in for a little bit, and you're talking with him, and he's saying like this stuff is actually sexy and stuff, right? It's hard, right? But he's able to talk to you. You know what I mean? He's saying like, well, it can be hot and whatever.
He was
right?
cool. Yeah.
No, but I think younger folks find that difficult, right?
And I was telling him like sometimes when you're.
I said in the chat, these two should get a room. I'm having another smoke.
I know I saw you come in, and then I was like, "Oh, I don't know how to add him. I don't know when to add him into the conversation."
It's great.
Or whatever.
I was like, "Well, it looks like my pimp daddy strategies worked."
But he's really good on this stuff about like he's saying like you can't just like I think what he's saying is you can't just wait for some kind of like women are broken. You kind of have to work with them. You can't just say like I want some kind of I don't know, Lauren Southern on meth. Like
we're in it together.
Crack.
We're in it together. But I would just just a little follow up, not to pick on somebody who's not present to defend themselves. I'm not picking here.
Yeah.
Well, you could accuse me of it, but I would just say this thing of like I think there's a thing. There's a generational thing. I think I understand it, right? Where people my age come on the internet. And Jeremiah's a little younger than me, but we're immediately dismissed because we're older, right?
Yes.
And it looks like we're just sort of desperate. Now, he's not desperate. I mean, he has a loyal following and has for years. And I think, really supports himself doing it. But he's still niche within that meaning of Catholic world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think he's like, I'm happy with that. It's a humble place to be. And
I accidentally dissed Tim Gordon. Well, because Tim Gordon tweeted
more beefs. I love it.
He tweeted something that I thought was funny, and then Jeremiah was like, "Oh, that was actually Timothy Gordon."
Oh, you didn't even mean to?
I mean, I forgot that it was him who tweeted.
I think it would be really fun to have Timothy Gordon and his wife on like a tag team mixed doubles, and it's all in good fun, right? I mean, it's just the internet. So
we could have a modesty debate.
Yeah,
seriously, a lot of people are interested in this topic. I think it's interesting. I don't know.
I got to say, Robo Chief.
What?
He's saying he doesn't even wipe. I hope you're eating a lot of fiber, Robo Chief.
He was dissing you so hard. He said he hasn't laughed once during this entire stream.
I think he was being sarcastic.
He's a
hater.
He's our what do you call
it? Well,
it?
he's a chief of being a robo.
He's our in-house troll.
He's a troll. But if I can say seriously,
sorry, go on.
I think first of all, a couple of things. I just as a follow up, and he's welcome to follow up. We can have a beef or not, but
let's have a fake beef just to drive the views.
A gentle beef, a little bit of beef. Okay, so you're a middle-aged desperate guy. I'm playing that openly, right? I'm playing that part openly.
Yeah.
And I am a middle-aged, desperate guy who's got nothing going on with his life and just wants to be an internet celebrity. So I'm playing it, but I am that guy.
Absolutely.
So these younger people are mad at us because they say like, well, I don't want to engage with you because you're the people who put us in this terrible place. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a legitimate criticism.
I don't think
Although obviously it wasn't just me and Jeremiah, but in some sense it's true that if this is a terrible place, and I would question that. I question that because how does the theory of God's providence match up with that? Aren't we in exactly the place that the Lord wants us to be in?
Right.
and it may have its difficulties, but it also has wonderful things about it.
Hmm.
This is not what we're doing here. I think is wonderful. I love it.
Yeah,
Now,
I like it. It's a
so
lot of
if
fun.
these younger people have a beef with us, that's fine, and I think we should take the hits. Yes, true.
You mean the
Yes,
like rolling your eyes
we.
boomer thing?
Yeah, right. And I think it's tricky. Like, how do we use this kind of like that we were watching Spexo and Pine Sap, who I think are wonderful guys. But if I say that too many times, it's condescending, right, to them, right?
Yes, yes.
I don't want to do that. I don't have
Right.
to continually prop them up, but I do want to say that because I think I love what they're up to. But when they start saying like the Holy Spirit is based, then you're going to say like the second person of the Trinity is based. And like, I'm not going to use that
How
kind
could
of
the Holy
language.
Spirit be cringe?
How
It's
could the
definitely
Holy Spirit be
100%
cringe?
based.
How could the Second Vatican Council be cringe? It's based.
Well, I'll tell
Jesus
you.
was an alpha. He's not a gamma or whatever, right? Okay, fine. That's fine. You can use your lingo. I'm not going to attempt to use it as a native user. I don't speak that language.
Well, it gets.
But I
It
think I
gets.
can use it sort of ironically and say like,
Yeah.
whatever. Okay, I think that's working itself out linguistically. I don't want to get into a big linguistic theory about things like that. But I don't think we should just try to hang, like, just kind of like schmooze in there and be like, hey, what's up with the young folks? Let me get the lingo and like
Yeah.
pretend that we're on the
Right.
same page. None one of you. We had it
But
better.
even.
It's true. I
Yeah.
had it better. Dating was easier for me and for Jeremiah. And, we had things that weren't like just internet all day long. There wasn't even a possibility. You could watch TV. There were 3 channels when I was younger. And you go out and play.
It is funny, but I would say even within like, whatever young people, I guess I sound like an old person saying that, but within like young spaces,
Yeah.
it gets a little bit old too with
Yeah,
the
it gets a
with the
little
talk.
like lingo-y, right?
Yeah,
Can
that
be kind of
cougar
an
is
echo
so
chamber, especially if
cringe.
we then narrow it. Young people, Zoomers, Catholo Zoomers, CathoBro Zoomers. It's going to get a little
Yeah.
farty in that
And also,
space.
young people generally we don't like to see older people getting mocked unless they deserve it, but like in general, we don't really I mean, maybe
Yeah.
I'm wrong, but it's kind of
But
like
there's a lot of anger.
yes.
There's a lot of anger. Okay.
Yes.
I can take
Yeah.
it. I can take an internet hit. Robo Chief can do his thing. It's fine with me. The thing that's funny about hating someone and being like, this sucks, this is boring. Well, you're watching it. And I know Robo Chief is a true fan and devotee, but I mean, that's what I had with the Jim Bob thing. And they kept commenting like, this is so boring. When are you going to get over it? And it's like, okay, but you're the one commenting on it, right?
Somebody had a chat. He said, "What am I doing, Ben?" We're having an intra chat.
We're having a great time, Robo
show
Chief.
beef.
What kind of chief are you?
Somebody on Jim Bob's chat when they were, talking about us because they couldn't resist. Him and Andrew.
I love it's like the ultimate taboo. It's like bringing a crack pipe to the party and just like Ben Thorpe.
Ovanese.
Thorpe.
Ovanese.
No, we've got a crew in there that's going to start pulling for us. Right?
He said he wants more Thorpe X Crucible shows. I agree. Those are fun.
Thorpe what?
Thorpe and Crucible.
On the Crucible?
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying.
I think we bring something to that. And I can't understand how Andrew, and I'm laying this out as a beef. Do you want to succeed in your own business or not?
Yeah.
Or are you afraid of me, which is what you said in your text? I've got it.
That's what a grabbler would say, obviously.
Okay, but my other point was, Gray, this is a serious point. At a certain point, I was saying like, well, it's funny. And I think funny is fine. He's like, well, you're not going to giggle your way to the world's salvation. And I was like, actually, I think I am. Of course, it's not going to be me, but I think you could sort of, I don't see where there's a problem with internet evangelization having a very, very healthy sense of humor. And he's like, well, I think he was saying something like, well, I don't see that I see that as being sort of undignified or something like that. I don't see that. But I mean, that may be just a different lane But I mean, I think he's kind of two minds. Like, because obviously I mean, there's a certain type of person who would just say, like, this is all undignified. I don't go on the internet. I write
Yeah,
books and
right.
articles and
Like
publish them
Wendell
and send
Berry.
things in envelopes, right? Because
Yeah,
the
right.
internet and all of this stuff is sort of fundamentally anti-human. I understand that point. But if you're in here, you know, you're kind of not, you know what I mean?
If you want to have a beef with Mr. Bannister, he starts his shows. He's got these ridiculous glasses on.
Yeah,
He's like,
yeah.
"Dum, dum,
No, he
dum,"
understands
and
it. I mean,
it's
he owns it.
funny, you know?
But I think there's a little bit of inconsistency in this. I'm saying, like, double down on it. Just own it completely. Dive in. And, like, I understand the whole, like, well, you got to balance things out. It's not like I'm
Yeah.
streaming my life 24 hours a day. Well, although that would be interesting, I think. It'd be a lot of just me sitting there going, right? But I kind of feel like, yeah, well, why don't we just beef our way to the top? You know what I mean? Like, because ultimately, I really want to say, this is Grace, please. I really want to say to the Ukrainian forces, to the Chinese that are, thinking about going to Taiwan, I just want to say, I want to laugh about that, right? You and your military weapons and I get, we know what these are, right? Mine is bigger than yours. It's not much different than Andrew. My rocket ship is bigger than yours and it can do more damage. It's more penetrative. Okay, guys, I get it. It's a little bit silly for grown men to be doing that. Now, if you want to do that on the internet with me and say, like, rhetorically, you're going to score blows, right? And okay, fine. That's what our world should do. And you can make your, Chinese things and say, like, hey, Taiwan, you suck. And Taiwan can be like, yeah, you suck too. You think you're so big and bad. I love it. Let's do that and have a good time and laugh, because ultimately, and my heart, I'm all heart here. I'm saying I think the Taiwanese people love the Chinese people and are Chinese. And I think the Chinese people love the Taiwanese people. I mean, and nobody really here is a communist and even understands what that means. Let's make the hive work. My hive, that's another one of my internet things. I want the hive people idea to get in there. I love hives. They work good. They're just different than what we do in Europe and Africa. It's a hive thing. You guys are hive people, which means you convert the queen bee, Xi Jinping, and the whole hive converts. That's awesome.
That's a good point. And
awesome. That's so much easier than like, oh, I gotta be martyred for 700 years and slowly it will chip away. Just convert the main guy. And just convert him by saying, like, don't you want to just like be friends with us? And he'll be like, yeah, I don't know. Like, what's communism mean when you're just an absolute capitalist? Like,
didn't the Chinese
we've long since like stopped paying any attention to our own theories. Mao sucks. Sorry, guys.
Didn't the commissioner of or some kind of high up guy?
But fine, China, you can even worship. You can have your thing of Mao because you guys are so hivey that you can't ever just say like, actually, that was a mistake. But in actual fact, you say like, well, the hive went a little sideways.
Wasn't there a guy who? No, let me make this point. There was
Jeremiah got off the air and our viewership dwindled significantly.
I know.
I was very happy to see in the chat Gregory Green, one of my favorite people, came on.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
And he's emailed me. Did I tell you that?
Yeah, I emailed him
so he's terrific. He said at first he said, what the hell is this Ben Thorpe doing? And then he got it. And he really thinks we're geniuses.
He said
he's one of like 5 people. And I think Robo Chief is numbered among that group.
He said I was the star
Robo,
of the show.
come on. I need a chief. What?
He said I was the star of the show.
He's trying to build you up. He's blowing sunshine up your skirt. That's the old saying, Grace. Okay. All you have to do is look at the analytics and see what happened when you took the wheel. Well, I am just reveling in the glory of true clout. That's a man, Grace. I mean, our viewers might not know this. All three of them that remain. But this is a guy who's been doing radio and all this stuff for like 25 years.
I know. And he said we were high energy. That's a big compliment.
And we have a kind of proto beef going with him. But I don't think he wants to beef. But I'm saying let's beef together.
He's not a grabbler like you. He's not a clout chasing.
But he said he doesn't want to get bigger. Why don't you want to get bigger?
Well, he's saying you'll lose out on the content because you'll just be trying to appeal to as many people as possible, right? But I don't think you necessarily have to do that. If you just get bigger based off of saying what you really believe, isn't that better than not?
What did he use as an example? He used an example. Can't remember. He's like, well, if you do that, you got to be careful because there was this guy who did that. And, the guy who just got the same old shtick he was doing. Right. And then he was like, well, I don't know where me ends and my persona begins.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, this is who I am. So, I mean, I am this guy.
Yeah, this is 100%
for better or
real.
worse. And I found in my life that almost every single person I've ever encountered dislikes me. So I'm hoping that repackaging this on the internet will give people some space where they can say, okay. I mean, I do say that to people. They're like, I used to like you, but I really dislike you. And I say, well, you can join the ranks because that's true of everybody. So I think I'm a type of personality that someone can only take at some distance. So that's why I think the internet is perfect because it can be Hollywood Ben Thorpe, and then you don't have to talk to me as a human being because you'll freak out.
Well, what you're saying is your persona is who you are. So there's not really like a lot of
I mean, that's not exactly true, but it's one and the same. There's no like inner. I mean, I guess the theory would be that there's an inner Ben Thorpe who's just like sad and lonely loser who's just trying desperately to like cover up the wounds caused by being like unable to teach in my job. Thank you. Teach or have a career or work or like, consistently be able to do kind of anything. You got to ask yourself that question, Robo. You're a chief, and yet you start with the toilet routine. Well, we never got to the CathoBros, but I was so excited that Jeremiah came on, and that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And it sounds like we'll get some chicks over here. And Grace, you're pretty, but I've got that Magnum PI kind of 50s guy thing, so those chicks are going to be glued to the set, intrigued.
Yeah. His wife said he'd add me to.
And hopefully they're not going to tell me about their toilet routines.
Oh, Dad! They won't go the robo. They won't pull a robo.
I just can't get over it. I'm flummoxed. I have to process. I'm giddy like a schoolgirl with a crush. I can't believe that.
We've literally been watching him for like probably a couple of years at this point, right? I mean, on and off. You've been watching his streams.
Yeah, and I just watched him in this Groiper thing, and I was like, that's interesting because I've never really known how it is because I had some suggestions for him on his stream, which I was saying like I wouldn't be so shy about getting into like current events and stuff, but I know he's just feeling like, wow, that's kind of of the world or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm sticking to the classics, and I was like, well, I mean that's just going to really minimize your which I get it. It's a kind of like I need to do substance. I'm not going to just join the Catholic 24-hour do show cycle of like, Pope Francis's latest pronouncement, end of world is here. Tune in and freak out.
Yeah,
I actually have a whole theory about Pope Francis that I'd love to share, and I think sophisticated. I think it's a sophisticated theory, and I'm not saying I have divine anything, but I think we can be good sons of our Pope without necessarily lying. And I think I'm the only guy doing that. And,
well,
it's a sophisticated theory. It has to involve. It involves sort of not necessarily just shelving our impetus to read intentions into things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
Don't
that was
read intentions into what the Pope is doing. Just take it on face value.
And that's that's what
and read it through the light of tradition. And whether he's winking his eye to us and saying, wink, wink, or whether he's not, doesn't matter, because all that matters is what he says, not how he says it or what we imagine his inner intentions to be. Same with the Vatican Council, same with the Novus Ordo Mass. It's the Holy Spirit that's talking to us through this man. And obviously it would be great if he knew what he was doing, but I think in a certain sense he's not sure what he's doing. And that's how God works most effectively. So it's an interesting theory. I mean, we'd have to hash it out at some point. Well, but I love just talking with people. I don't know how Jeremiah does it, where he's just going on and on and on. And I'm not saying that negatively, but I'm just saying sometimes when he told a long story, I didn't follow it at a certain point, what he was saying, and maybe there were references. But I think he may lose some people because he's assuming they have the depth of knowledge he has. You know, I could see a young person going to his podcast and being like, I really don't know what this guy's talking about, because he's not like, we don't have young people asking, like, what do you mean by that? Or why should I hear about that? You know, like even the reference to enthusiasm, they think he's talking about the emotion of enthusiasm. He's actually talking about a kind of heretical tendency, capital E.
Yes, right.
Is that a capital E?
Yeah.
It's my gangs days. The enthusiasts, a notorious gang in Warren. The enthusiastic Catholics. This was their hand signal. You don't find that funny? Well, anyways, I love the fact you talked to him so long. What a generous guy. I got nothing to say unless he wants to create a beef, and then we can do it. I love the beefs in the chat now too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like he like, and I don't know why I was so surprised, but he treats me like a person instead of these ortho bros who are just like, hey,
now there's a beef.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't like, and that's
what you going on about, love?
That's more alpha, is to not treat a woman like she's like some kind of an animal or something. And I know they were joking or whatever, but it's more alpha.
I think it's tricky. I think it's tricky. I don't have any problem with people having this kind of sense of like, well, the only way we can do this is this super traditional way because everything else is so crazy. I agree with that, but I just think you got to say like, well, but me as a girl, like, I'm either a slut or a prude, no matter what. There's no space in between, right? Is your point?
Oh, wait, or the ortho bro said shots fired. I was not talking about you. I was shots fired. Shots fired.
You sit there, and you're there up at night trying to just say, Grace, I'm not saying this about you. And that's not a right accent.
No,
I'm saying he's apologizing a million times. And all you do is just take absolutely anything you can find. Start shit.
It's his username.
Dismiss him. Straw man him.
I was talking about the debate panel that I was on that I'm going to keep milking content out of because it's the only one.
We got to take this Jeremiah Bannister interview and absolutely use it to clout and ankle bite our way. Like, Bannister gets destroyed by Ben Thorpe, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll just say, if he's like, hey, that doesn't seem fair, we'll be like, dude, you don't understand the irony of the young people. I do. I'll help you learn about it. You can meme me back. It's the youth vibe. It's all in good fun.
Well,
it's all in jest. It's all with a wink of an eye.
He does get quite a few more views than we do, so I think until we get there, he won't exactly be coming to us for advice.
Yeah, but when they type his name in, it'll come to our thing and it says like Jeremiah gets humiliated by Ben Thorpe.
You want to see some clickbait? We can do clickbait.
You've got to do clickbait.
No, that was my point.
Even if it's like just a pleasant conversation, you have to start it by saying like, Ben Thorpe absolutely body slams Jeremiah Bannister on the Ortho Bros.
Well, what I saw in Jim Bob's chat, they were making fun of us, but they said like, Jim Bob said this on stream. You won't believe what it was. Click here to find out. It's like, that is exactly what we're doing.
That's how all the big players do it. Even a guy like Russell Brand, who I think is very much trying to be in the middle. It's always
Yes.
like, what the F, right? Or like, I
Yeah,
can't
right,
believe I
right.
just heard this. And so like they play the game.
Yeah.
Players play.
Yeah.
Haters hate. Is that even a thing?
Yes. I think.
Player haters? I mean, are we here to win, or are we here to like feel like we're victims because we can't win?
Typical blue pill coomer grabbler ankle biter boomer. Did I already say
Blue
boomer?
pill? What's the blue pill?
It's okay.
Oh,
I asked
normie.
people in the
Normie.
chat. Normie, yeah. You want to stay in the matrix.
It's when you say in the Matrix because you're more
Yeah.
comfortable in the Matrix. Yeah.
Right.
I think I would be kind of a blue pill guy. Let's stay in the Matrix if we mean by the Matrix reality.
Don't hate the player, hate the game. Yeah, that's probably more what it is.
Hate the player, hate the game. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
That's like a development of the whole like don't kill the messenger.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we didn't even get to the real part of our agenda today. We have several things to react to. We have specs.
But I love that we're nimble. We're nimble.
Yeah, yeah.
So we get Jeremiah
I'm not
Bannister.
saying we didn't want Jeremiah on. That was great.
I made a poem about Jeremiah Bannister. I'm gonna go have another smoke because I'm just too excited. But
well, shouldn't we just wrap it up anyways? We've been streaming for almost 3 hours.
Oh, I'm giddy. It's gonna take me hours to get through this. We could stream for 6 more hours. I'd still be like. So, anyways, what I really thought was. Yeah, you're right, Grace. Well, so let me finish. You're a normie NPC boomer blue pill guy. You're right.
I
Fed,
didn't even
sus.
Yeah. Mad sus.
NPC. I like the CathoBro. He's got a good sense of humor. I made a song about Jeremiah Bannister, and when I was trying to get him to call me on the phone, which is one of my more annoying habits, right? Because I don't know how to do this. I like you. Okay. But I would also like to talk to my thumbs get tired. I'm an old man.
Texting, you mean?
Texting.
Yeah.
I love the chat. I mean, that's fun. That's a genre of its own. But if you're trying to like talk to someone, can we just talk on the phone? Anyways, so I was annoying. Who am I? An ankle biter. At that point, I hadn't even become Hollywood Ben Thorpe. I was just some guy.
Right. Just some
So
loser.
he's like, yeah, maybe I'll call you sometime or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, but he was very nice. And he didn't know who I was, but then I sent him a video that you made. And he was like, okay, that's cool. And we clicked through email.
Yeah.
And then I was like, let's
remember.
call on the phone. And I said to him, and because I think he also at some point had a rough patch where he didn't have like a place to live and stuff. So it's kind of a song. I think maybe the CathoBro can find like a good, like drinking type
like
pub
a
tune,
a melody.
But I'll try it this way. So I said, he's.
I'll give you the full screen.
No, you have to be here because I feel.
Okay,
I'm not a singer.
Okay.
He's Jeremiah Bannister. Used to live his life in a canister. For a phone call, we had a planister. Old Jeremiah Bannister. That got him on the horn. He called me. He's like, okay. Let's go through it. We talked for a couple hours, had a great interchange, and then we kind of dropped it because I wasn't sure but we really clicked in a lot of ways. He's very similar to me, but I don't think he wants to get in the ring and become a celebrity, midlife crisis guy.
I was talking to his wife, and I was saying like, I think you're excited because you finally found somebody who'll like match your energy. You know what I mean? Because you guys were talking about. Yeah, because you guys were talking about like this. Like,
are you starting to portray this as a bromance?
No, you guys were talking about like how Russia and Ukraine should debate, and he's like, yeah, and I'll take it one step further, and you're like, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yes, that's right. Because a lot of guys on the internet, on this world wide web that we're a part of now, are especially in the Catholic world, they're very, I don't know, they're like very nice and boring. And like, and the most edgy they get is like, yeah, that Pope Francis, right? But there's not a lot of people who have a kind of ebullience in that space.
Yeah.
Like a Russell Brand or a Ricky Gervais, that kind of ebullience, that kind of just
in
kind
the
of joy, which I think
is
what I call the Catholic douchosphere. And
You're gonna alienate everybody.
well, if it doesn't apply to you, then you shouldn't be offended. Oh, Grace, I think you need to get
This
some
stream
kind
is
of way to
going
set this
off
up right.
the rails.
I think we're gonna get a lot of views out of this. It's been fun.
Well, we've got a great lineup
what's my
for
point?
tomorrow. Oh,
What was my point?
Okay, can I just
Bromance?
say
Yeah, I
he
agree.
matches-
He's a
yeah.
guy whose personality is open, tends to be open.
Yes,
Like he
yeah.
used to be, I think, someone who would have been comfortable. There are liberal types, right? And then there are conservative types. I'm a super liberal type. I'm very open.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you're necessarily a liberal. I don't think I'm a liberal.
Right.
But they used to say, what's a conservative? A liberal who's been mugged. You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, somebody who
Right.
somebody who's angry because something bad happened to them because they were liberal. Is that what
Yeah,
you're
and
saying?
that makes them into a conservative. I'm that kind of guy. I'm like a
Yeah.
liberal who's been mugged
Okay.
in the sense that I'm not naturally a conservative person. And I think conservatism, I mean, it's that yin yang thing, Grace, you know.
Yeah.
Like a liberal has a little bit of a conservative within him,
Yeah.
and a conservative has a little bit of a liberal within him.
Well, you're saying you're kind of
every conservative who at least
personality
goes
type.
on media and is a certain, unless you're just this curmudgeon who's just like, I don't know, ever since they came out with newspapers, it's been just a disaster, right? No one's gonna, right? Tucker Carlson, he understands the media, he understands you have to use it.
Yeah.
He understands it's got to look good. He understands you've got to be hip and modern in some way.
Yeah. Tiger Gin likes your name for it.
Is that my own neologism?
Yeah, no, it definitely is the Catholic.
Oh, the worst part of the Catholic douchesphere is like the rad shred douchesphere. It's just so crybaby-ish. But then it gets better when you're in the crazy sphere of like the sedevacuntists who are like, they were screaming at me on Twitter about how I'm going to hell because I don't think like a light show at the Vatican proves that Revelation shows that he's the Antichrist. And I was like, well, this is kind of fascinating. Like, check out more of my videos. I was like, I don't think so. But I kind of do want to go there. You know what I mean? It's like your mother's inclination to go to the creepiest sleaze in the United States of America and like interact with them and be like, are you streaming? It's 3 a.m.
A little promo for my streams. My mom has been looking into the Whoremaxer 2 channel. I don't know if it is this guy.
She is a genius in that way. She smells creep
fascinating.
in it.
Yes.
She sniffs the ultra creepy, and she's like, you know what? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and she's
even though she's a prude kind of.
Yeah, right. She's on both extremes, but she's done a deep dive into the channel.
Aren't all people who are prudes kind of like in the end like this post? Right. This is my theory.
Yeah.
The women who are protesting against, men, they're the ones who want to get body slammed by a cop on the pavement. And while they're doing it, when he finally takes them down, they're quivering in ecstasy. These are some of the things that we're going to broach in Feminine Fridays. And it's going to get uncomfortable, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Grace wants to do a whole series on serial killers where you rate them. Is that correct? Who's the sexiest serial killer, kind of, that kind of thing? I mean, really disturbing stuff, folks. And I am not going to censor it.
The socio-sexual scale, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, whatever.
Well, exploring the Ted Bundy phenomenon. Women threw themselves at the guy.
Yeah.
After knowing he was a serial killer. You couldn't pry him away. They were lined up at the door. Something going on there.
I think, if you want to go there, let's go there. And Edith would be happy to go there. And,
she's terrific.
The truth is women are attracted to these serial killers, so let's just go.
There's something about women.
This is for later.
There's something about this is just a teaser for Friday. There's something about women that is not the cartoon version of women that sometimes in the Catholic world, in the Orthodox world, we have presented to us. There is that is just a facade. You think this girl is a nice girl? She is. You don't think there's crazy right under the veneer? There is. And then she's the one who's willing to explore that and expose it.
Well, I think we should have Rachel on because I think
Oh,
she could
you want to
say
talk
like
about
she could talk about their like shooting technique. She could be like, "Yeah, Richard Ramirez, I think I could have taught him a few things."
Grace, enough with the beef, Rachel.
I'm
All right,
keeping
folks.
the beef going. All right,
Thank you so much. Hashtag, let's do something
Let's do
beautiful
something beautiful for God.
together for God on the interwebs.
You had to ruin it. Bye. Thank you
Good night.
again, Jeremiah, for coming on.
Thank you.